Hi, everybody. We are live. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I can't do it right. Gotta do it like Hitchcock. Good evening. Good evening. Oof. Oof. Just boo this man. Just boo him. Boo him. Anyways, hello, everybody. My name is Sean, so known as Potentially Criminal. Today, we are going to start the trial regarding the death of Ethan Leming. Now, if you guys remember, Ethan was a kid. Well, he's 19, and he was over at LeBron James's charter school and died at the hands of two people, Deshawn and Tyler Stafford. Now, it was such an outrageous thing when it first happened. It was made national headlines, and in fact, it's just down the road from me in Akron, which is to the south of Cleveland, about an hour. I am not muted. Nice try. Nice try. Where is I'm hung here for $2 says I'm gonna come. Hmm, hmm. Now hold on here. We gotta pull it up. Where did it frustrating. There we go. I don't know why this is doing it for me, but we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do it live. We're gonna have to do it the old way. We're gonna resort to the old methods like the riddle of steel. Okay. Now I will point out something to any of you who are keeping a sharp eye. The trial is going to start. There was about 30 minutes of dead time. I fast forwarded through that. Um, one of the Stafford brothers has an attorney, and his attorney is somebody you may recognize. And that guy is Ethan Leming. Or, I'm sorry, not Ethan Leming. His name is John Sin. And if you guys know who John Sin is, John Sin was hired by Cyrax to represent him. So, wait, I can't be muted right now. No, Mike. What? What the fuck? Hello, hello, hello. You guys can hear me. All right. Damn, your audio's coming through. Don't trip. Well, you guys got me all fucking freaked out. Ah, can't do that to me, kids. All right. Well, because I'm checking and I can't find my audio's fighting me over here in StreamYard. But yes, unhung here for $2. I'm gonna come. Don't come. Now, now we're gonna start this, and like I said, one of the people at trial is represented by attorney John Sin, and that was who Cyrax hired. So it's a little interesting, little bit of meta-ness here. But let's get started. This occurred down in Akron, Ohio. So this is the Summit County Court of Common Pleas. The brothers were both charged with involuntary manslaughter, which is a felony. You could face 3 to 11 years in prison. Aggravated assault, you could face 6 to 18 months for, and then assault. And assault is the basic basic well, we'll just call it the basic bitch charge there. And we are looking for here the trial. So we're going to begin, and it's going to begin directly with opening arguments. So here we go. You guys are ready? Now, I will apologize. The sound in this courtroom sucks for some reason. WKYC is a Cleveland channel. This is going to be the border the whole time. So I apologize. I apologize ahead of time. There's nothing I can do about this. It is what it is. in that regard. I'm going to try to turn on the sound enhancer. So let me know what you guys think. We may have to do a little bit of mugging about here. So let's fire this bad boy up. And here we go.
All right. Okay, please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury. We did all visit the scene this morning. We did complete our jury view, and at this time, we are ready for the opening statements of counsel. Opening statements are not evidence. They are counsel's opportunity to give you an overview, a roadmap of what they believe the evidence in this case will show, but it is not evidence. And Ms. Shuki, on behalf of the state.
Okay, I really did boomer that. Damn it. They did a jury view. They went to what's called the I Promise School. It's Lebron James charter school he founded. They went out to the area where the incident occurred, where Ethan Liming died. And the jury is told, just like I mentioned this before, the jury goes out there and looks. Nobody points at anything. The jurors are brought there. They're told, look around. The defendants are there. The prosecutors are there. And the judge is there. Then they all get put back on a bus and brought back to the courthouse. So now we're starting.
You may proceed.
Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, on June 2nd of 2022, Bill Liming and his wife Cindy and Jennifer Liming got a phone call that every parent, it's your worst nightmare. They got a phone call that their son Ethan, a 17-year-old, going to be a senior at Firestone, was dead. Ethan was found in the parking lot of the I Promise school by police. He was beaten, bleeding from his face, from his mouth, from his head. He was dead. And there was nobody else even in the parking lot, and the police arrived. Horrific enough as that phone call is to receive as a parent, was learning how their son had died. The police who arrived on scene, there was nobody there when they arrived. The police at first had no idea what they were going to find and were shocked to find Ethan laying there. And you're going to see video, and you're going to see photographs of what that scene looked like when the police got there at about 11 o'clock at night. At about 10:45 p.m. is when the 911 call came in that there was a fight at the Akron school in the parking lot. And you'll hear that that was made by one of Ethan's friends, Ephraim Stefanko, and he will be testifying here later, early next week. But when the police arrived, there was nobody there. And it became a whodunit. Well, what happened? How did it happen? And who did it? You'll hear from Ethan's friends. There's Ephraim Stefanko, Mackay Shady, and Lamarian Dancy. 3 other 17-year-old boys who were with Ethan the night that he died. And June 2nd, 2022 was the first day of summer break. And these boys got together, hanging out together. You will hear from them how this all happened, how this all took place. But at first, ladies and gentlemen, it was a whodunit because nobody was even on scene when the police arrived. Well, you'll hear evidence that Ephraim Stefanko's father and Lamarian Dancy's mother arrived on scene. And as the police were just trying to figure out what in the world happened here, how did this boy die, then the mother of Lamarian and the father of Ephraim come to the scene because the boys had run home. And you'll see how this all plays out. But basically, these parents came to the scene and said, my son's here. They were involved. They were involved here. But the boys on scene, his friends, didn't have any names, didn't know who it was that assaulted Ethan. So the police start investigating. They are looking at the scene. They see a broken, what's called a splatter gun or a Orbeez gun. And it's a toy gun, a plastic toy gun that shoots these little Orbeez, little gel-filled pellets. What are pellets? They are gel balls, basically. Water-filled little capsules, little balls. It's a toy gun. It's one you can buy in the store for your kids. And they found that broken on the ground near Ethan's body. They found broken cell phones lying on the parking lot where you just were earlier today. Broken cell phones, a broken Orbeez gun, Ethan's wallet is near his body. Where you were walking earlier this morning, there was a light pole that we had pointed out to you. That light pole and that parking space next to it is where Ethan was found. So detectives start looking at the scene. They find Ethan's Kia vehicle that he had driven that night with his friends. He was the one driving the vehicle. And that car is kind of almost where you were walking initially from the bus out. That car was there. And you'll see photographs of where the car was left. So when they get there, the car is there. Ethan's vehicle is there. Ethan's body is there. But there's no one else. And that car is just sitting there. Some things from the car taken out and broken on the ground as well. So they are able to identify Lamarian, his friend, as well as Ephraim and Mackay, as being with Ethan at the time the assault occurred. So the police interview them. They get as much information as they can from them. But Ethan's friends can't tell them who did it, who it was. They say three guys were the ones who did it. They got into a fight with Ethan. And I can tell you that the boys are going to say that, hey, first day of summer break, we were going to get together. Ethan came and picked up his friend Ephraim first, and then they went over to Lamarian's house, which is very close to where we just went, I promise. It's just around the corner, basically. And they picked up Lamarian, they picked up Mackay, and Ethan was driving, it was his vehicle. And they, as 17-year-olds do, as we talked about in White Deer, they had some marijuana, they smoked some marijuana together in the car. And they had these the Orbeez guns, the splat flashers, toy guns that they got the teenage brain idea to go and shoot them off random people. They were going to go to Akron school, see if anybody was there, and shoot the Orbeez gun at people. And unfortunately, bad choice, right? 17-year-old choice, 17-year-old brain. They went to that Akron school. Ethan's driving. Makai and Ephraim's in the front seat. Lauren and Makai are in the back seat. Ephraim gets out with one of the splat blasters, and Makai gets out with one of them as well. So Ethan pulls up to kind of where we were when we first entered the parking lot there, stops his vehicle. Ephraim and Makai get out, and they have the Orbeez guns, and they sort of run towards the basketball court where that sidewalk was, where we walked. They sort of run in that direction. They're shooting into the basketball court. They thought it was funny. They thought it was a joke. They run back to the car, they get in, they're kind of, all four of them are in the car, and the defendants come out of the basketball court.
Damn it, I did it again. Okay, so notice they're talking about these gel blasters. They hurt. They're not just like Nerf guns. They can blind you. Keep that in mind.
That entrance that we all kind of went in and walked, they are in the basketball court to that far. We had you guys walk to the far end. That's where the defendants were when the boys came in with the splat guns. And they were shooting through that chain link fence. Boys run back to the car. Defendants then walk from where they kind of run. First, someone shooting Orbeez guns at them. They run to the entryway, and we went in and out. And Deshawn Stafford starts approaching their vehicle. He walks from that exit from the courts, across the courts where we walked, and over to where Ethan's car is, to confront the boys, I guess. At that time, though, all three boys were back in the car except Ethan, and Ethan was in there when he stepped out of the car. He had the splat blaster. The boys, they thought this is funny, it's a joke, it's a prank. Deshawn Stafford approaches the vehicle, and Ethan, words of some kind are exchanged. Ethan has his splat blaster, and he shoots it at Deshawn. Deshawn jumps and punches and goes after him. So now Ethan and Deshawn are in a fist-to-fist fight. Tyler Stafford comes over to join the fight, and another person by the name of Donovan Jones, who is a cousin to the Stafford brothers. He comes over to the basketball court. There's a third person there, a girlfriend of one of the defendants. She does not approach, as far as we understand. But the three men come over. They're older now, but the defendants were 19 and 20 at the time that this occurred. So the defendants are now, they approach the car. Deshawn is actively fighting with Ethan. Tyler comes over. Now it's not one-on-one, it's 2-on-1. And then Donovan comes over, and for a moment there, it's 3-on-1. At the end of that fight, Deshawn Stafford punches Ethan as Ethan is engaged with Tyler. Deshawn punches him, kind of cold cocks him from the side. Ethan goes down. Ethan hits his head on the pavement, and Ethan doesn't get back up. At that point, you'll hear from his friends that they tried to get Ethan into the car. They're trying to get him into the car to go to the hospital. They think he's passed out. He's been punched out. The defendants, and I mentioned Donovan Jones, he was charged in this matter, and his case has already been resolved. We're not here about him, we're here about these two defendants. Ethan's friends are trying to get him into the car. You'll hear that the defendants interfered with that. You'll hear that the defendants wanted to fight the other three boys. And you'll hear and see on some video that Ethan's friends ended up scared and ended up running from the scene, running away from the vehicle, from Ethan, because of the acts of the defendants and Donovan Jones. You'll see from the video that Donovan Jones actually chases the boys away where we were towards that McDonald's into that parking lot, and they run home. You'll see, because we have some video evidence, that instead of calling 911, instead of doing anything besides the defendants jump in a car, they jump in their car and they leave. Not before Tyler gets into Ethan's car, drives it kind of over to the parking lot. We looked at the light pole spaces. There was another set of parking spaces. He drives around there, kind of to where the entrance was where we walked in, and drives the car over there. Gets out of the car, breaks the sunglass holder that you pull down from the car. You put your sunglasses in. That's laying on the ground next to the car when the police get there. He takes a cell phone, and you'll see it on the video, from the car, throws it down, smashing it on the ground. And you'll see from the evidence and hear that none of the boys, Ethan's friends, had their phones with them. They were cracked and broken. So tips start coming in. Obviously, the three friends of Ethan are interviewed. They don't know who the defendants are. They give descriptions. But at first, like I said, it was a whodunit. The police are trying to figure that out. So they're looking at surveillance videos. They're looking at poll cams, trying to find out what type of car it was that the defendants were driving. Tips are coming in, as I said, to the tip line. They learned that from the video that the defendant's vehicle.
Okay, yes, you guys are wondering, this case happened about 2 weeks ago. The verdict was returned. I thought this was a really interesting trial because the initial story sounded so bad. But then as the trial unfolded, you're like, huh, I guess it didn't happen the way the media portrayed it. So that's why we're doing this. I think it's a really interesting trial and needs to be watched.
Has some front end damage. So now they're kind of look at that vehicle. And they end up finding the vehicle with the front end damage at Deshawn's residence on North Howard Street. They go there, they find the vehicle, and they determine that that's where Deshawn Stafford lives. So after determining that that is the vehicle that was at the scene, you're going to hear how the investigation proceeded, that the defendants are brought in, that they're interviewed, they make statements to the police. You're going to hear about Ethan's vehicle, that Tyler Stafford drove her away with an abandoned, that there were like a footprint on the window because at some point Deshawn Stafford is kicking at the window trying to get in when the other three boys are in the car. This is after Ethan's just lying there. He's lying there and they're still trying to assault the other people in the car. But you'll see that those pictures, and you're going to see crime scene pictures. You're going to see a crime scene video here shortly, actually. That might be difficult to view, but it's part of your job as jurors to look at all that evidence as it comes in. So through their investigation, the police charge the two Stafford brothers in this case. Deshawn Stafford is charged with involuntary manslaughter based on what we call aggravated assault. And he's also charged with an involuntary manslaughter based on a misdemeanor assault. And Tyler Stafford is also charged with that involuntary manslaughter and the misdemeanor assault. So basically, your job is going to be to determine who is responsible for Ethan's death. Now, I mentioned in Vaudier, the defense has as well that they're going to claim some type of self-defense in this case. I submit to you, however, that when you determine the force used, in this case against Ethan, you have to look at whether it was appropriate, proportionate to the threat that supposedly Ethan and his friends posed to the defendants. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are all responsible for our actions. You know, whether you're in a fight, we talked about some people were in fights, young, in their youth. But even if provoked into a fight, you're still responsible for the outcome of that. You're still responsible if that punch leads to someone's death.
I'd be
In
careful
this
about
case,
saying
ladies and
that.
gentlemen, that's what the defendants are charged with. Not knowingly, not I'm going to go kill somebody. That's not why we're here. That's not what this is. But you are responsible for your actions. And I submit to you that the defendants could have chosen many other different actions than what they chose that night. They chose to come out and confront the boys at the car instead of staying in the court or calling 911 or walking to their vehicle, which you'll see in the video was on the other side of the basketball court. They made choices. Choices to approach
She thinks she's been in.
Ethan,
Of
choices
course,
to
I agree,
then get into a fight with Ethan, choices to do not just one-on-one fight, but 2-on-1 and now then at one point 3-on-1. And when he was on the ground, after he hit the ground, when he's basically dying on the ground, they didn't stop there.
Did Ethan have a choice?
They punched him when he was on the ground. They kicked him when he was on the ground. Can't even defend himself, right? At all. But they chose to continue to assault Ethan when he's lying, dying on that view at Akron School. Again, ladies and gentlemen, while they did not, I believe, did not want to cause his death, they did. And they are responsible for their actions, for the outcome of the assault. And ladies and gentlemen, I ask and I submit to you at the end of this that we will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that they are responsible for Ethan's death. It is a tragic situation all around.
We'll get to this.
Ethan and his friends have made a dumb teenage decision, as we probably all made in our youth, to go there with this toy Orbeez gun and shoot these little gel water beads at them. Dumb decision. But oh my Lord, what an outcome. Because of a toy gun,
Yeah, you fuck around
Ethan Lyman
sometimes.
died that night on that parking lot. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to appreciate your time and attention in this case, and we ask and we believe the evidence will show at the end of our case that the defendants are guilty of the involuntary manslaughter charges that they are charged with in this case. Thank you.
Oh my God, that was so disjointed and like, oh, that was horrible.
Mr. Sin?
Absolutely horrible. Come on. Absolutely garbage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
So that was absolutely garbage. That was disjointed. That was even hard for me to follow along. And I've read up on the case. God. This is Cyrax's attorney, John Sin, by the way.
What the prosecutor told you is not evidence. We disagree with a lot of what the government just said. But there are things we agree with. This is a tragedy. Ethan never had to die. This is a tragedy. Actions, decisions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are unforeseen. But Deshawn and Tyler didn't go looking for trouble that night. Trouble came looking for them. Now,
Good point.
the state, in order to do their job, has to say some things that might be a little rough for my clients and their family to hear. And for me to do my job, I'm going to have to say some things that are a little rough for Ethan's family to hear. But there can't be any secrets in court. You folks have to hear everything, and then you have to make a decision as to what happened here. And in order to do that, folks are going to get upset. But it is what it is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my client, Deshawn, and his brother, Tyler. These kids were raised here in Akron by a single mom. Deshawn, or Sean as he goes by, is a big brother, 2 years older than Tyler. And early on, Sean had to kind of take the role of man of the house because his mother, unfortunately.
I'm going to object for a minute. Sorry to interrupt you. Sidebar.
Sure.
Ah, wow, that was really loud. Sorry, guys. That is a static machine, so they can talk. Now, I get it. There's some issues there. No father. I get the no father things. Okay, no. RP says this is Racket's level of commentary. Thank you, RP. Darcy saying thank you for streaming it. You're very, very welcome. So, remember, this is a trial. You have to, and this is what a real, those, here's the thing. You see that, Johnny Depp, where they've got, this big bench, and there's this, sidebar where you can have, a buffet line going? This is what it's like in real courtrooms. You're, fucking sitting on top of each other, trying to get a case going and trying to make arguments. This is very much how it goes in the real world. Just so you guys understand that. Because I think this is very much how a real courtroom looks like, and I've never practiced down there, but the courtrooms I'm in, this is exactly what it's like when you're doing a sidebar. You're all sitting on top of each other. Then there's a court reporter who's gonna. Well, this one actually might not be on the record, so. So, no, Alpha Fox, you're saying it wasn't a real courtroom. It was entirely in a real courtroom. I'm just saying that type of courtroom is nice and fancy, and it's a brand new courthouse. This is like a real courthouse. This is a real courtroom. It's not huge. And this judge still has COVID barriers up, which is really weird to see, especially nowadays, because every other courthouse I'm in nowadays, they're pretty much all gone. But this judge has her COVID barriers up. Wombat Mommy saying you have to go. Movie time. Okay. Well, we'll be covering the rest of this, though. I guess it's time to keep going.
You will learn that Sean and Tyler are brothers, and they're close, and they were raised with their mom, and because mom had a disability, Sean kind of had to be a big brother early on. Since he was 12, 13 years old, he's been taking care of Tyler. He's been making meals and looking out for him and taking care of mom and things that kids do, especially kids who don't have all the opportunities in the world. So they kind of bounce from apartment to apartment, school to school, but through it all, they had it all. They had each other. And in trying to big brother his little brother and keep him on the straight and narrow as big brothers do, they had a lot of basketball. These two played basketball, and that was kind of their thing. They played basketball, and on any given time, they could be found at the I-Promise court when they're catching up with each other. Because they both had lives. At this point, Sean's 20 years old. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a new baby. But he's still looking out for his little brother, and they are routinely walking to the I-Promise school. They live right around the corner. So they can be found and playing basketball. And you're going to learn if they're there all the time. Just shoot hoops. You're going to learn that when the LeBron Foundation put that court in, it was for the purposes of the public coming in to shoot hoops. Give these kids a place to go in the neighborhood. That's the neighborhood these kids live in, And they're happy to have it, and they took advantage of it. Anytime at night, the lights are on, the kids can go there and stay off the streets, and that's what the Stafford brothers were doing that night. Across town, up towards Fairlawn, trouble's getting ready to come for the Stafford brothers.
Even Fairlawn. Dun, dun, dun.
And it is tragic. Stafford brothers are 5'5", 130 pounds. They were playing basketball that night with their cousin Donovan. Donovan's bigger. He's 5'11" and 180. But all three of them were just shooting hoops for a while. But across town, Ethan Liming, a talented, promising young boy, 17 years old, is getting ready to go out for the night. Ethan is a popular kid going into his senior year at Firestone. He is the highly talented high school quarterback. He is a baseball star. He's popular. And everybody likes him. And his future, by all accounts, is bright. His junior year, going into his junior year, his football stats are that he was 6'1", 180 pounds going into his junior year. And this is now going into his senior year, so I don't know what stats were there. Like popular kids, Ethan had friends, and they cared about him. And by all accounts, just living his best life. There's another side, and it's not a side that he can be judged harshly for, but it's a side that we have to know about in order to understand this case. In addition to all the good things Ethan's got himself into, Ethan's selling marijuana. He is the Firestone guy that sells marijuana. And you're going to hear that, like a lot of high school marijuana dealers, and again, it's just weed. The state when they charge it calls it trafficking and trafficking in marijuana and drugs to abuse, but it's just
good.
I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but it's squarely outside the law. And like a lot of high school weed dealers, Ethan's got friends who become customers and customers who become friends. And on this night, he had a mix of both with him. You're going to learn that Ethan, as he's getting ready to go out, has a buddy that goes out with him, a kid named Akron Staffords. Now, Akron's a 125-pound kid, and he knows Ethan really well. They're pretty close friends, and Akron will ride shotgun with Ethan. That night, Ethan gets a call from two kids he kind of knows. Two kids, two African-American kids who he knows from middle school. Two kids who don't describe them as his close friends. Two kids who know each other very well. That's going to be Mackay and Lamarian. Mackay's 6'1", 225. Lamarian's 5'7", 225. And these two kids work at Akron together, and they know Ethan, and they know he's popular, and they like him, and they know he can get weed. And they know he sells weed. They know he's got the scale in his car. They know he's got the packages. You're going to get to see the scale and all that stuff. And on that night, they ordered weed. When Ethan called Ephraim to come ride shotgun with him that night as he visits folks, he told Ephraim, "Bring your blaster gun. I've got mine." There's a TikTok challenge, and for those of you who are social media awkward, like maybe I am, or too old for it, on the internet, kids do stupid stuff. They do the Tide Pod challenge, where they eat Tide Pods. They do, we all did the ice bucket challenge. That was for a good cause, but this one was called the Orbeez challenge. And the funny thing about it is, you're such a kick because you drive by people with a gun that makes a machine gun sound, and then you shoot them with these rubber blaster beads. And the idea is they think they're in a drive-by shooting. So you watch the reactions, you film it, and then you put it on TikTok, and everybody gets a real kick out of it. I mean, except for obvious people who shoot at. But for the kids, it's a blast. And it's as dangerous as it sounds. There's not a dispute that that's what Ethan was up to that night. There's no dispute that this was the TikTok challenge. Let's go get kids and make them think they're a drive-by. So Ethan and Akron get over to Mackay's and Lamarian's, and Ethan says, hey, you want to smoke? Let's go smoke. You're going to hear from the two boys that were buying the weed that they didn't really want to leave their house, but Ethan kind of insisted, let's smoke in the car, we'll smoke some. I've got yours. Gave them their drugs and then had some, they were going to smoke and drive around. So they go to find a place to smoke right in the neighborhood of where these two other kids live, where Lamarian and Mackay live. They kind of live on that side of town too, close to I Promise. Not Ethan's neighborhood, but these kids are from over where these kids are from. They're going to smoke, and when they get in the car, you're going to hear from these boys that Ethan gets the idea that he wants to do the Orbeez challenge if he can find anybody on the basketball court at I Promise. Drive in, make the kids on the court think there's a drive-by shooting, and it'll be fun. So that's what happens, and you're going to see a video of it. You're going to see that these two boys are shooting baskets with their cousin where they're safe. And you're going to see that Ethan's car pulls up, and Ethan instructs, according to the boys in the car, instructs two boys to jump out of the car and shoot at the boys on the court. And they do, and you'll see it. And it looks like exactly what you think it's going to be. Someone jumping up and shooting machine guns at you, and everybody gets scared and everybody runs, and it's hilarious. Except, these guys don't live in a neighborhood where that's so funny. Now, that's not a joke. They take it seriously. They think they're getting shot at, and everybody agrees that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to believe that. There's only one way off that court, and the boys go running. They try and get off the court and get away from the blasters. The other boys start walking towards them down that sidewalk, but at some point, all the boys get back in their car. They've done their drive-by, it's hilarious. They're going to get back in their car and run away. That's what the TikTok challenge is about. Deshawn, with a basketball in his hand, walks down that sidewalk and says, I'm frankly, what the fuck, dude? Basketball in his hand. What's wrong with you? Ethan's in the car. Now, Sean's all alone. The other boys they still don't know this is all a big joke, or they're not sure what's happening, or they don't want to fight, so they're still back by that gate or heading towards their car, which was kind of on the other parking lot there. Sean goes up, basketball in hand, what the fuck's wrong with you? At which point, Ethan, who'd been in the car, gets out of the car and proceeds to shoot Sean in the head repeatedly. Shooting in the head with this blaster gun that makes the real machine gun sound. I'm not telling you that at this point Sean thinks he's been shot in the gun. At this point he knows he's just the subject of a big goof. It's just hilarious to come into this neighborhood and scare these kids. As Sean gets hit in the head, he just keeps walking up to Ethan, grabs the gun, and they fight for this gun. Now Ethan's 6'1", 180, Sean's 5'5", 130 pounds. They're fighting. Sean loses. He at some point he's on the ground. Tyler, his brother, comes running up to try and stop everything. And at that point, Ethan goes after Tyler. Tyler and Ethan are fighting. The boys in the car, Ethan's friend, Akron, he's going to tell you, his words are, I just bitched out. That's his word. He hid down in the car because he's 130 pounds and he's a skinny kid, scared kid. But the two other kids that are over 200 pounds, they don't get into it. They don't really know Ethan like that. They're not going to go, they didn't want to go in the first place and do this nonsense, but they did. So now Ethan is fighting Tyler. Sean comes up, and now Sean's trying to get Ethan off Tyler. And at some point, Sean lands a punch. He got plenty of punches. He took a lot of punches. He got thrown on the ground. Sean got slammed to the ground so hard that he vomited. Because of, I don't know why he vomited. Because he got slammed to the ground. But he couldn't let his brother, who's not much of a fighter, couldn't let his little brother try and fight Ethan alone, so he went up and squared off, took some punches, got a punch in, and I will not use the term luckiest punch because this is the unluckiest punch in the history of the world. It's an unlucky punch. It's a punch that, for whatever reason, hit Ethan just the right way, square in the face, and Ethan, as his friend said in the 911 call, our buddy just got knocked out. Our friend got knocked out. You'll hear an autopsy report that says Ethan died from blunt force trauma from the back of the head caused by hitting the pavement. That's what killed Ethan. He hit the pavement because he got punched and he went down, and that happens sometimes. On TV, people can fight and nothing ever goes wrong, but every once in a while in a fight, something does go wrong, and Ethan hit his head just the right way. Prosecutor's going to talk to you about what happened after the fight and things like that, and I'll answer those for you in a second, but what these boys are charged with, what my client's charged with, is causing the death of Ethan. That's the cause. Basically, they're saying that he used too much force when he threw that punch. It's about a punch. It's about a punch. You're going to have to break it down because you're going to hear the punch cause the damage. So, was the punch thrown in self-defense, or was this a vicious attack on Ethan? The autopsy report will say that Ethan's got scratches and bruises, and you're going to see some horrible pictures. I will tell you that when someone dies, it's not a pretty picture. People, folks bleed out of their mouth, they bleed out of their nose, their bodily fluids release, and they throw up. There's just the pictures that are going to look horrible because they are horrible, but when your blood stops pumping in your body, you start turning purple and things start looking funny, and I get that, but I need you, if you're going to do your job, to look past the pictures into the medical testimony. What you want to know is, what caused this boy's death? Were any other injuries on his body? Did he have another broken bone? Did he have another fracture? Was he kicked in at all? Was there anything other than a punch that could have caused his death? Tell you that and hit the ground. You're going to hear no. All that hoopla that was out there in the world earlier about this stomped him to death. What killed Ethan Lyman was a one-punch, unlucky punch in the cement that we all stood on today. No one knew Ethan was out. Nobody. Now Donovan's up there, who's not on trial with us. Donovan's up there, and Donovan's saying to the other African American kids there, "What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this with all this stuff we got going on out here? Why are you doing this?" And these kids don't know what to say because they're kind of embarrassed. They kind of know it was a horrible thing to do to other people. And so, folks are mad. I mean, at this point, Ethan's knocked out. No one knows he's dead. And the rest of them kind of start to fight a little bit. You'll hear that Donovan makes Ephraim give him the gun, and Donovan breaks the gun. Here's your damn gun. You're going to hear that. That gun's not going to shoot anybody else, man. The joke's over. You're going to hear that there are little scrapes and tussles afterwards. You're going to hear that after Ethan was down for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, Donovan and maybe Sean, maybe Tyler, the others for sure, are trying to get him back up, but not in a good way. Get up, he's knocked out. I'm not justifying that. It was 5 to 10 seconds. There's no injuries that caused his death during that time. There's nothing significant. Yeah, if he's getting back up, they're going to fight him. As soon as they realize that he's knocked out, they start yelling at the other boys. What's wrong with you? Other boys don't want no part of it. Everybody takes off. Ethan's friend, Ephraim, takes off and runs in one direction, leaves Ethan sitting there. The two boys in the car that bought the marijuana, they wanted nothing to do with this. They ran home. These boys, and at this point, again, no one knows Ethan's dead. He's just knocked out. No one knows that the cement had done that damage. they take off too. Now, a 911 call was made. Did we hear the 911 call? All the boys were there when the 911 call was made. So for anyone to imply that they just left them there to die, the cops were on their way. Everyone knew the cops were on their way. You're going to hear that these boys took one of the blaster guns with them because they thought they needed for evidence. Not from either being dead, but evidence. They're the victims of getting shot at, so they just took it. So they had one of the blaster guns, they turned it over to the police. No one knows Ethan's in this condition. Everyone leaves because the cops are on the way. The cops get there. Ethan's friends are gone. These guys are gone. I think the state will make something of that, but trouble didn't go looking for them. Trouble went looking for them. They didn't look for it, and I'm not surprised they took off too. Everyone ran. Kid was knocked out. Everyone ran. Then the cops come and they talk to the boys in the car. Ultimately, they figure out Micaiah and Lamarian and Ephraim, and ultimately they talk to these boys. And ultimately these boys know what they did was kind of, one, poor judgment, two, possibly criminal, three, kind of, you left your friend there. So they lie in their initial statements to the police. They lie and they talk about this horrible stomping and this football kick, and they don't mention the marijuana, and they make it seem like it's this huge attack. Basically, it's black on white. Ethan got killed because he's the quarterback, and these kids can't control themselves, and what a tragedy it is, and it is. But for a year, we sat silent and just watched people talk about the animals who attacked this boy and killed him for no reason, and nobody's been able to bring up what really happened here. Now, I'll tell you what happened. The law says you can stand your ground in a fight. You can stand your ground. That's the law today. You don't have to run away. If someone's attacking you, you can use reasonable force back. If you pull a real gun on me, I can pull a real gun on you. That's not what happened. This was a fist fight. Ethan was looking for some trouble that night. He got out of that car and shot Sean in the head when Sean only had a basketball in his hands. Thought it was still funny. And when Sean tried to take the gun off him, they fought. And it was just a fight. And Ethan lost. And the payment. The question is, did these boys act in self-defense? And I'll tell you, 3 years ago, before the law changed, it would have been a tougher job I would have. It's a tough job because a couple years back, I'd have to prove to you that these boys acted in self-defense. I would have to prove to you that they didn't have a chance to run away. That was the law. But back in 2 years ago, right before all this, the governor and the lawmaker said, we're tired of this. We're tired of crime. We're tired of people attacking other people. We're going to change the law, and it's called stand your ground. You never have to back down from a fight.
Mr. Sin, the court will instruct the jury as to the law that applies in this case. Please stick to the evidence.
That's actually not uncommon for That's not uncommon for a judge to tell you don't instruct about the law. That's the judge's job. So him getting shot down like that happens a lot. A lot of attorneys get in trouble for that.
Evidence will show that these boys defended themselves. Nothing in the state of Ohio is going to show, will prove to you that they weren't acting in self-defense. And that's the burden the state has, to prove that they weren't acting in self-defense. I can't imagine what folks are going through. I can't imagine the loss that Firestone community has. I can't imagine where Ethan would have went in his life. And if If we could put TikTok, Mr. TikTok or Mr. Orby's challenge on trial today, we should. But we can't. And unfortunately, actions have consequences. And when you attack folks, they may defend themselves. And when someone defends themselves, and that defendant and the force they use is reasonable, in this case a punch, even if the consequences are tragic, even if the consequences are unforeseen, that conduct is covered. If these kids could go back and not go to the basketball court that night, they'd do it 100 times. If someone could have just took the damn pellet guns out of the car, we'd have done it 100. We wouldn't be here. This is a fight amongst boys, and the color of their skin, and who's from the right side of town, and who's from the wrong side of town, has nothing to do with it. This was a tragedy, but we can't.
Shit, what happened? God dang it. Sorry.
Young lives on a prank that went wrong. At the end of this, you're going to find that the force used was reasonable and that Sean acted in self-defense. Thank you.
Mr. Gallick.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, because there's two defendants, there's two
A tragedy.
statements.
I think we all agree on that. You've heard that from two opening statements, and a third, you've heard that. And actions have consequences. I think you heard that from both opening statements. Now you're hearing it from the third one. As you know, opening statements are not evidence. We're just telling you what we think from our own perspectives, what you're going to see and hear in this trial. Now, I represent Tyler Stafford. This is my client, and the evidence that I think is going to be shown, I think it's a lot of what you heard from Mr. Sin's opening statement regarding Deshawn Stafford. However, there's a couple differences, and I'll just get the first one right out of the way. You heard both the prosecutor and Deshawn Stafford's opening statements that Deshawn threw a punch, Ethan fell backwards, hit his head, and died tragically. Ethan Lyon died there. You're not going to hear any evidence that Tyler Stafford caused anyone's death on June 2nd. You're not going to hear any of that evidence. It's just not going to happen. Regarding the self-defense and provocation, if the prosecution is going to try to disprove self-defense, it's not going to occur. Let's get to just a couple things. You heard two opening statements. I don't want to duplicate too much here, but let's start off with, you heard that Ethan Lyon was a quarterback, and on June 2nd, he sort of served as a quarterback as well. And that is kind of like you heard, it was his idea to get the guns. You're going to hear testimony from one of his, whether it's friends or customers, one of his acquaintances is going to tell you it was Ethan Lyon's idea. Hey, let's get a couple of these guns. Let's drive to I Promise School. That was Ethan Lyon's idea. They're going to tell you it wasn't my idea, it was his idea. They went there. Let's find some people at the basketball playing at I Promise. Maybe we can go scare them. Maybe we can go shoot them. Maybe it's one of these TikTok challenges like you heard. You're not going to see those videos as you heard the phones were broken. So no social media got posted that night. Didn't happen that night. But they're shooting these guns. They're simulating a drive-by shooting, apparently, is the joke. Okay. Well, one of the things I guess they didn't know is at the end of a drive-by shooting, you drive away. And you're going to hear that didn't happen. They didn't shoot and scare Deshawn and Tyler and their other friend, Donovan Jones, their cousin. Okay, we scared them. We took a video of them. Now let's drive away and get out of here and post our video. You won't hear testimony to that. Instead, Ethan was driving the car. I believe it was Ethan's car. They stayed there. They stayed there. And just to add to something that Mr. Sin said, he said when Deshawn came up, and Deshawn Stafford was the first one there. Deshawn got shot in the head with one of these guns. We'll get to that, more about these guns in just a second. One of the witnesses, one of the prosecution witnesses, didn't say that Ethan shot Deshawn in the head, said he shot him in the face. So, you say shot in the head on the side or here on the side or back. No, shot him in his face. Now, whether it's the nose or the cheek or apparently not his eye, he didn't lose an eye. But you heard, these are toy guns, right? They're just these toy guns, these Willoughby guns, they're toy guns. You're going to hear testimony that these toy guns, if you get hit with one of them with your skin, like on your face, it feels like getting struck with a rubber band. All right, taking a rubber band. I don't know. Maybe we had an older brother or something like that. Like, hey, look at this. Isn't this funny? It's not very funny. It hurts. It's painful. Well, it's not that painful. Well, that's subject to interpretation. You're also going to hear testimony that these toy guns, they shoot at a very rapid pace. Okay? They have a bottle of some of these pellets, and they ask, how many pellets can you put in one of these bottles? 20,000. 20,000. And it's just like a machine gun. You just hold the trigger down, and they just come out, I think they said 7 a second. Imagine getting hit 7 a second. It's just a toy. It's just a game. It's just a joke. Well, they didn't know it was a joke. They didn't know it was a joke. And they didn't know what they were getting hit with. And so Deshawn, being the older brother, goes out there. They don't know what they're being shot with. They don't know what's going on. Ethan Lanning and we'll call them his 3 friends, they're there on the scene. And the fight ensues. The fight ensues. It wasn't a situation where they got the video, they shot the kids, we shot the basketball players, post the video. No, they stayed. It was a mutual fight. It was a mutual fight. Now Tyler, being the younger brother, he wasn't there first on scene. Deshawn was. But you heard that there was fighting going on. Primarily, you had Donovan Jones, you had Ethan Lanning, you had Deshawn. Tyler is not only out there worrying about protecting himself, he's also worrying about protecting his brother. So, there's self-defense, there's also defense of a family. So this is what's going on. So, and again, the evidence that you hear is going to be that Tyler Stafford certainly didn't create the situation. Tyler Stafford didn't cause anyone's death. And Tyler Stafford was just, again, playing basketball with his brother and their cousin, Donovan Jones. And Ethan Lanning and his friends, we'll call them, initiated the situation. Deshawn went out there to talk about, as I think we heard, probably talk is a little too friendly of a word. It probably wasn't a very friendly talk. What's going on? And Ethan Lanning and him, they got into a fight. And the fight got worse and worse. You are going to likely see some pretty awful photographs. That's what happens in these cases. There's all these, say it's a tragedy, it's an awful situation, but we have to make the decisions on the evidence and not sympathy or how horrible the situation is. What is the evidence? Does the evidence meet the law? And one of the things you'll believe you're going to see from the autopsy of Ethan Lanning is he has really bad injuries to the back of his head, as you heard, but he also has injuries on his hands. His injuries on his knuckles. Why is that? Is it possible his injuries on his knuckles? Because he was punching somebody. Pretty likely. You're going to hear testimony there were punches, mutual exchanges in punches between Deshawn Stafford and Ethan Lanning. And perhaps at some point, Tyler Stafford is in there. Maybe he's throwing some punches too, because leave my older brother alone, right? Ethan Lanning is dramatically bigger than Tyler Stafford. Tyler doesn't want to see his older brother. He doesn't know what's going to happen to his older brother. He gets shot in the face. He gets shot in the face with one of these toys. That's a toy for 2023. It's not a toy from 1953. It's a toy from 2023. And Tyler does what a reasonable person would do in that situation. He's not going to just abandon his brother. Just take, okay, I don't know who these guys are. I don't know what's going to happen to Deshawn. He's getting shot with something. I've been shot with something. Maybe Tyler should just leave.
You're arguing.
Well, thank you, Judge. You're going to hear testimony of Tyler doing what is a normal thing to do, and you're not going to hear any testimony about Tyler Stafford causing anyone's death.
Even his was a far better opening than the
Thank
state's.
you, Mr. Gallick. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're just checking to see the status of some folks that are supposed to be here. Or, again, scheduling in this kind of a trial is sometimes difficult, so I think we're just trying to decide if we're going to take our lunch break now or after the next witness or the first witness. Counsel, do you want to approach?
Oh my God, they need to have a warning for that. No, God. So the state's opening sucked. The first defense attorney, John Sin, was a lot better. Second defense attorney, Eddie Siplin, is still better than the prosecution's, but not the best. You know, they're gonna finish this real quick. I'm gonna answer a couple of these questions really quick though. Greg D is saying, so each defendant has a different lawyer. Yes. Especially in cases where representing two defendants at the same time is generally never a good idea, because you run into the potential issue of, you know, them saying he did it, and then they start accusing each other. Well, how do you represent each other? They've now both told you things. Who's your loyalty to? Because remember, those are the critical things. Like, who's your client? Well, if they're both your client and you now both know things that they know, you can't help one with the other, because now you're breaching privilege. So what happens then? You would have to withdraw completely from both of them. So it's called a Brunton issue. It's US v. Brunton. Actually, is it California v. Brunton? Yeah, it's it's Brunton v. United States. Okay, not US v. Brunton. You don't generally represent two defendants at the same time, because there is a likelihood they could turn on each other. But that also becomes an issue if you're trying to do joint trials. Now, in this case, it's very clear these guys were defending each other, so them being in trial together isn't a problem. But having them have the same attorney is never a good look. That's just never a good idea. But yes, for the Donald Trump's RICO case, everybody's got an attorney, and if they can afford a team of 10 attorneys, then everybody's gonna have a team of 10 attorneys. That's you're allowed to have, you're entitled to representation. But let's see where we are.
With counsel at this time, I think we will take our lunch break. If you would return.
Okay, so she's going to do lunch break real quick. We are going to speed through that. We are not actually going to do lunch break. But thank you for the question, Greg. That's actually a really good question. And Zaven saying, is the intent to assault the same as the intent to murder in a case like this? Well, their argument is they assaulted him and the intent carries through. So when you commit a crime and that crime results in a death, you've committed manslaughter. So yes, they punched him and started beating him. And, when you start beating and kicking on somebody, you should presume your intent is to cause them serious bodily harm, which could also lead to death, is the reason why the state's going down this road. And the intent can be determined through your actions, because your actions are determined. A reasonable person can foresee their actions resulting in a certain outcome. So, for example, if I kick somebody in the head like a soccer ball, it would be a reasonable person could infer, I'm going to hurt this person and really bad, or maybe kill them. So that's why that happens there. But let's skip ahead in time. All right, here we go. we're going to start. Okay. So here we go.
So a regular patrol officer, is that right?
I am.
Okay. When you do that, can you tell the jury what sorts of things you have to do as part of your job?
As a patrolman, I answer calls for service. When somebody calls the police, I respond. I patrol a designated sector or zone, that neighborhood, drive around and make sure there's nothing foul going on.
Okay, and so you say you have a zone within the city of Akron?
We're assigned districts when we start.
Okay, and do you have a set district or does it kind of rotate?
Right now?
Sure.
I do. Right now, I work Zone 2, which is 3 sectors of the city, as a community relations officer.
Okay, and you indicated that you've been with APD, did you say 11 years? 11
years, yes.
Okay, so you were working for APD last summer?
Yes,
Do you know if you were working for APD last June 2nd?
I was working overtime June 2nd.
Okay, so as an overtime shift, that would be like a patrol shift?
Yes, I was working patrol.
Okay, can you tell the jury what was going on that day?
My shift started at 11 o'clock. A little before 11, there was a call in my area for a fight of some kind, and I put myself in service and responded to the call.
Okay, so when you work as a patrol officer, do you wear a uniform when you do that?
I do.
Okay, is it similar to the uniform you have on today?
It is.
Do you know if it'd be the exact same?
Like these, it would look the same, yes. I don't know if this is the exact pair of pants and shirt I was wearing.
Okay, and when you're working, are you in a police vehicle?
Yes.
Can you describe that to the jury, please?
My police vehicle is a Ford Taurus equipped with lights and sirens and a computer that I can see calls for service and utilize leads.
Okay, does it say Akron Police on it?
It does. It's marked.
When you're working, do you ever wear a thing called a body cam?
I do. I have it on right now.
Okay, can you tell the jury what that is and why you wear it?
The body camera is a small video camera that I activate when I'm dealing with the public on calls for service. It records audio and visual of what's going on from the perspective that it sits on my chest.
Okay, and so just so the jury's aware, does it see exactly what you're seeing?
No.
Okay, what's the difference?
About a foot from my eye level, I suppose. It's on my chest, so it doesn't move with my head. It just moves with my body.
Okay, and do you know if you were wearing that on June 2nd?
I was.
Okay, and do you know if it captured any of what you encountered that day when you responded to the call?
I activated it as soon as I got on scene.
Okay, and so when you activate the camera, do you know what happens if it immediately begins recording or not?
I believe there's a 30-second buffer that is recording when the camera is on. It's recording constantly, but it's not saving everything until I activate it. When I activate it, it goes back 30 seconds. You don't get audio, but you get visual. And then once I hit the button, the audio starts with the visual.
Okay. If you already said this, I apologize, but where was the fight call you received?
It was at the I Promise School. I believe the address is 400 West Market.
Okay, and do you know if that's here in Akron, Summit County, Ohio?
It is.
Okay, and did you say you went there?
I did.
Okay, can you tell the jury what you did when you got there?
When I arrived on scene roughly the same time as the ambulance was responding and pulling up. We didn't see anything immediate in the air. We didn't see people standing up or running or any active fight. I went to the far side, which would be towards the west side of the building, and went around because I know that parking lot goes all the way around the property. EMS took the closer route and went east. When I came around the building, EMS had found the victim on the ground, and I got out of my car.
Okay, so just in case it wasn't clear, you mentioned something about EMS being there.
Yes, they were dispatched as well.
Okay. Do you know if they beat you there or if you beat them there?
I think we arrived about the same time.
Okay. And you indicated that you went opposite ways around?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, did you find that the EMS had located something?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do then?
I got out of my cruiser. They were with the victim on the ground and started doing EMS things, treating. I started looking around and asking if there was any witnesses, and continued to do that until I came back to EMS.
Okay. Did you find any witnesses there?
I did not find anybody that saw anything.
Okay. Were there other people there at the scene?
There was a few people walking by.
You say you received a call to go there. Do you recall any of the specifics of exactly
I do not.
what the call was?
I don't recall the call notes or what was said.
You indicated that you looked around the scene, is that right?
Yes.
What were you trying to find?
Identification for the victim, anything that would lead to say what happened, cameras in the area that I could see if they belong, who the cameras belong to, and if they would capture what happened.
Okay. And did you do anything before today's date to verify whether your body cam was working that day?
I've watched my body camera
Okay.
of the incident.
If you were to see it, would you recognize it
Yes.
today? Do you believe it would be helpful for the jury to see that, to understand the scene that you encountered that day?
Yeah. I
Just
think it
laying the
would.
foundation.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would like to present State's Exhibit Number 1 for the witness's identification.
Also, they're not using like a 1990s Taurus, guys. They released the Taurus fairly recently. Like, I get it, Akron's poor, but they ain't like 1990s poor. I wish there was a way I could show two pictures at once in StreamYard, because I'd show you how this is set up.
Oh. Where's the witness?
We're gonna get
Nobody's here? Nobody else is around? He does not look good. Colonel. Add a plate to the call break. John Henry Charles 3241. It's a blue Kia, unoccupied. Miss, you see what happened? Did you see what happened? Which way? That way? How many? Sir, did you see what happened? Are you two together? Are you two together? Are you two together? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's close, so. But that's not him. Water. I am. Because I like to turn inside out. Yeah, this one was in the car over here. What's the website on it?
Well, this one is Dancy.
That's one of those floppy shooters or whatever. Oh, yeah, that's
You the call forward.
1497, 1349,
Hey, were you around here when any of this was going on, man? You didn't see anything or anything? Yeah. Alright, man. What's up? You can ask, but we're not gonna tell you anything. Were you here? Did you see anything that happened? Did you see anything that happened?
No, I didn't.
Okay, alright. Go ahead and move on, man. No, go! Are those lights bugging you? Behind him? Oh, here he is. Yeah. Wait. Is he breathing? He's breathing, right? No. Is he done? Yeah, he's breathing. He's 22.
I didn't do anything. What the hell happened?
Call Superman. Yeah, he's on. I found him. I didn't know he was 22. Is he 22 now? I got it. They're saying 22. Yeah. They said it's not false. I mean, do you have fraction tape? We need a big area of fraction tape. This is. we had no idea where the guy was. I went around the back of the. Yeah, that's yeah, no, you're good. I just want to make sure if there's anything underneath here before we start moving it. Hey, will you move my group? Oh, here, never mind. No, yeah. Yeah. Okay, great.
When you were there,
We're just gonna skip it. We're just gonna skip ahead to. We're just gonna skip ahead to where it's going. The TLDR is they beat the manslaughter charges. So yes, boomer, boomer, boomer. We're just gonna skip ahead to where he's talking. It's easier because this is getting difficult to listen to without seeing it.
Looked like because pulling on scene and seeing the victim on the ground, it looked like it wasn't very good. It did not look like he was in good state.
when you were there, did you have the opportunity to go up to Ethan's body?
Could you be more specific?
Did you go near Ethan's body while you were there?
Yes.
Did you have the opportunity to look at him and observe his body?
Yes, but not until after I knew that he was dead.
Okay. Did you take note of any injuries to him?
Not specific injuries. No, I could see that he definitely was beat up. I didn't notice any kind of stab wounds or gunshot wounds or anything that stuck out in my mind other than his face was pretty beaten.
Okay. Do you know what the status of his clothing was when you saw him?
I remember his pockets were turned inside out, and that's the most that I remember from what I saw. I mean, his clothing was definitely disheveled, but I don't recall specifics about his clothing other than what I mentioned in the camera, that his pockets were turned out.
Okay. At a certain point in the video, did you mention a Floby's shooter?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what you meant when you said that?
I believe I meant an Orbeez gun.
Okay. What's an Orbeez gun, if you know?
It's like some kind of hybrid squirt Nerf gun that shoots small pellets of some kind of polymer, I believe.
Okay. And
Like a BB gun.
okay, you were able to see that there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall where it was?
It was in the parking lot, away from the body.
Okay. Do you know approximately how far away it would have been from you when you identified it?
When I said that's one of those, somewhere between 10 and 20 feet at least, probably.
Okay. How did you know that's what it was?
I have kids that have toys. They want those kind of things.
Okay.
I just looked similar to what they had showed me.
Okay. Okay, at a certain point in the video, I think you maybe relayed information to a dispatcher or something of the license plate number of the car, is that right?
Yes.
What was your purpose in doing that?
To attach that call, that vehicle to the call, so they would put it and it would be attached to the call.
Okay. Okay, and I think we saw you talk to a few different folks that kind of wandered up to the scene, is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to determine if they were witnesses to the incident?
I believe I determined they were not.
Okay, at a certain point, you asked if Ethan was 22. Can you please tell the jury what that means?
It's our police code for somebody being dead.
Okay. What prompted you to ask that?
When I came back up after EMS was working on them and they started wheeling away their gurney and nobody was around him, I asked if he was breathing and they said no. And then I asked if he was dead and they said yes.
Okay. Is there a significance to the fact that they were wheeling away the gurney?
To me, it meant that they were not putting him on it and taking him to the hospital.
And so
They were slacking.
why wouldn't they still take him away somewhere?
It would either be because he's okay and he doesn't need to go to the hospital, or that they were going to leave him in place because he was dead.
Okay.
Sadly, he was not
And
okay.
follow-up would be needed with APD,
What do you mean?
like further investigation of the crime scene?
Yes.
Also, we saw that you were kind of shining a flashlight around throughout the video there. Can you tell the jury what you were doing with that and why?
I was just looking at the scene, seeing where, there's fluid on the ground. There was other items scattered about, like we said before. Just seeing where they were, how far this expanded, how far the crime scene expanded, the incident, where it occurred.
Okay. And at a certain point, I think you shined the flashlight underneath the ambulance. Is that right?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
When the ambulance said they were going to move and pull away, I wanted to make sure that there was any kind of evidence underneath, if there was more shoes or anything that I could see by looking under, so that we could, so it would be safe to move the ambulance without further disturbing the crime scene, basically.
Okay. And is that also what you did with your cruiser?
Yes.
Yes, no perjury to the grand jury, and no discussions about finding brain water on the ground. Oh, I don't see his brain water. I mean, yeah, it does sound like they fucked Ethan liming up pretty bad.
Officer, with the court's permission, I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 2. And I'm going to ask you to identify it for the jury, if you're able to do so.
That is the parking lot of the I Promise School.
Okay, and is that how it appeared the night that you were there?
After we moved the vehicles, yes.
Okay, and we do see some things in that photograph that are different from how they appeared when you walked around with your body cam. Is that right?
Yes, the crime scene was on scene and they had put numbers by items to collect, I believe.
Okay. And so we see those numbered placards in this photograph here.
Yes.
Do you know where, sort of what the layout is here, what direction we would be facing by viewing that photograph?
We were facing towards the west.
Next, I'm going to, and so that is
How
an
about the
accurate
chicken?
photograph of the scene from that evening.
Yes.
Great. I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 3. Ask you to identify it for the jury if you are able to do so.
That would be the scene facing towards the east.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. And in that photograph there, can you tell the jury what if anything is significant to focus on?
What do you mean?
What would be the significance of that photograph? Why did someone from APD take that photograph?
They take photographs pretty much all around just to see the different angles from the different perspectives. I'm not a crime scene photographer, so I can't tell you any more than
Okay. And so this does reflect the scene as you found it that evening?
Yes.
Great. Next, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 4, please. And ask that you identify it if you are able to do so.
That's the same from another angle.
Okay, and so in that photograph, we see those numbered placards again.
Yes.
And do you recall seeing items in the parking lot in those places?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 5, please. Sir, if you are able to identify that for the jury, please.
That is Ethan's body.
And as I did indicate, that's been marked State's Exhibit number 5. Is that how Ethan appeared when you were on scene that evening?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd asked if you observed any injuries to Ethan when you were there. Is that how he appeared to you?
Yes.
Okay. And we see some stickers on his body. Do you know what those things are?
EMS those are EMS stickers they use for their machine.
Okay. And so you saw them on him that evening?
Yes, after EMS.
They're not
Back away
stickers,
from
they're the
the body.
connection points.
Okay. So we saw another cruiser arrive, and it looked like you interacted with those officers. Did more officers end up arriving as well?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any idea how many police officers would have been there that night?
I don't have any idea, but there was a lot.
And is it fair to say you're not the detective that collected the evidence here?
That is fair to say.
Okay. Do you know if there were specific officers who do that?
The crime scene unit will collect the evidence.
And officer, I've been trying to turn up your mic just a bit, but maybe
Okay.
if you pull the
Pull it
mic a little closer to you, that might help.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did you go anywhere else that evening as part of the investigation, or was your involvement limited to there at the I Promise school?
No, I walked around, obviously, the I Promise school, checking the area, and I went to a side street that borders the I Promise school and did a neighborhood canvass of some houses
Help
there.
a little girl their social studies homework.
Did that yield any
Oh, yeah.
results for you?
Some of the houses did have cameras. I remember one house, the cameras do not record. I talked to people who said that they heard an argument. They weren't sure about it, and they said that arguments are frequent over at the basketball court, so they didn't really think too much of it. And I basically just documented all that for detectives to follow up later. There was no immediate
They're playing basket.
information that was useful.
Okay, you didn't encounter any
Playing
witnesses at that point?
Get
No.
And do you know if those cameras would have been able to capture what was going on in the parking lot of the school?
The man I remember talking to, his camera system on his front porch is blocked out by the trees and bushes in front during this time of year. So his cameras did not record, but he said even if they did, they would not. And yeah, and I asked him if they had audio as well, and he said his cameras did not have audio. So
Okay. Do you remember the name of that little street?
I do not.
Okay. Did you say it was right next door to the I Promise school or something?
It was. It was like a 1-block street that dead ends about where McDonald's is.
Okay. Officer, that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Quinn, your last exhibit was 5, is that right? or 6?
I believe that is correct, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Sid, cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Officer Walter.
How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you, sir?
Well, thank you.
Officer Walter, we had an opportunity to look at the photograph that we just saw of Ethan, and he clearly appears to be a young man who is deceased. He's got blood coming out of his ears and his mouth and those type of things. Do you agree with me on that?
From the picture, yes.
Okay. Yet, when you got there, you seemed surprised when the EMS folks said that he was 22 or that he was dead. You seemed surprised by that.
Yes.
Now, what kind of call were you responding to?
I believe it was a fight call.
So, do you know at that time who had called in?
No.
And if I were to tell you that one of the boys from the scene called 911, you couldn't tell me whether that was true or not. You just know that you got a call, there was a fight.
Yes.
Did you know somebody was on the ground injured?
I don't think I knew that at the time, no.
And I understand it's been a while, so, and I'll just ask you a different way and just to be sure. Were you looking for a body when you went in that parking lot, or were you looking for a bunch of kids fighting?
Looking for a bunch of kids fighting.
Okay. And you found Ethan, and he's got these traumatic injuries, but you still think that maybe he could go to the hospital. And from that picture, it appears that he's clearly deceased. Had anybody like EMS or anything been working on Ethan?
Yes, like I said, when we got there about the same time, EMS found him first and they were already with him. So.
Can you tell me if that blood in his eye, coming out of his eyes and his ears and his mouth is that a result of injuries to his eyes, his ears, or his mouth, or is that a result of a brain bleed from?
I would not know the answer to that question.
Okay. But when you saw him, you had reason to believe there was hope, and then the professional said there's no hope.
That would be my assumption, yes.
Okay. You do your job, and you document everything, and you're looking around, and I see you have your flashlight out, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming that's because the parking lot is somewhat dark.
Yes.
And I look at those photographs, and everywhere I see a photograph, there's a big field of light in front of the photograph that fades out, which to me sounds like maybe there was a flash photographer there, and that it wasn't lit that well in all those spots. Is that a safe assumption?
That would be a safe assumption, yes.
Okay. So what you're doing is it's dark in that parking lot to a degree, and you've got your flashlight out, and you're looking for evidence.
Yes.
And you need to identify Ethan so you can, I think you said, get him to tell his parents at the hospital or something like that. And you go to the car and you find an ID.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you don't remember whose ID it was.
This
But
is
I told you I heard the
dragging
word
on. Oh my God.
Dancy come out of your mouth, and that there's a person that was in his car with the last name Dancy. Would you have any reason to think that I'm wrong? And it was a ID belonged to a black male.
Yes.
Ethan's age.
Yes.
Who looks like he may have left his wallet in the car.
Yes.
You also found Ethan's identification. Where did you find Ethan's identification?
His wallet was on the ground away from his body.
Okay. Do you know, did you go through the wallet?
What do you mean?
Did you look and see what possessions were in the wallet?
I did not take inventory of the possessions in the wallet. I only retrieved his ID.
The boys aren't charged with robbery, so is there any reason to believe that his wallet was stolen or money was taken? Do you have any facts to support that at this time?
Only the fact that his pockets were turned out.
Okay.
But
And again, EMS has been working on it before you got there.
yes.
And you don't know today whether there's money in the wallet or not, or whether you had money on.
No, I would not know.
These Orbeez
It's an
guns,
interesting development.
you kind of recognized that, did you not?
I did.
Very interesting.
And you indicated you recognize it from just having kids.
I also recall seeing them at like Reservoir Park, which is
Yeah.
more my assigned area, kids running around
That's very interesting. The wallet wasn't inventoried. So what was missing from the wallet? We don't actually know. So was he actually robbed?
shooting each other with these things.
Okay. Are you aware of law enforcement across the country having put out any bulletins or any information about concerns about this Orbeez challenge or this TikTok challenge? Have you ever heard about that?
I did not hear about it until after this incident.
Okay. As a law enforcement officer, do these toy guns cause you guys concerns when they're out there in the dark? Is there an easy way to tell that something's a toy gun versus a real gun?
How do we know if it hasn't been inventoried? We don't know what was in there. Just saying.
I know we've had cases where officers are forced to make that tough call and shoot somebody only to find out it was a toy gun. It happened up in Cleveland.
Sure. I don't know if that's a question.
Sustained.
That is a concern for officer safety, that these things are floating out there, and sometimes even as police officers, you can't be sure when someone pulls a gun on you whether it's a real gun or a fake gun. Is that true?
That would be true.
So this whole Orbeez challenge thing, I'm guessing that's not an idea that law enforcement supports. Go around and do these photo
I would
pictures.
object, Your Honor, I think it falls within speculation from this witness.
Sustained, you can rephrase it.
Do you think it's inherently dangerous to do a fake drive-by
Ask
shooting?
about this department. You don't have to ask about everyone in the world.
Yes.
Just
Yeah,
ask
Your
this
Honor, I
department.
don't know that there's any indication this is a fake drive-by shooting.
Does this department allow it or not? This isn't hard.
That's okay. I'm going to withdraw that at this time. Officer, go counsel, may have a question for you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Gowan?
Officer Walter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is there a title that I can see Officer Walter? Is there the proper way to address you?
That's perfect, thank you.
I'm Donald Gallup. I don't think we've ever met or spoken before. I represent Tyler Stafford. Just a few questions. Testified both on direct and Tyler or Deshawn Stafford's cross-examination. You got a 911 call about a fight, right? Is that what you?
I don't know if it was a 911 call. I responded to a call for service.
Okay.
I don't know how it came in.
Okay. So to be more precise, you get a call from dispatch.
Yes,
Okay. And when you get that call from dispatch, as you say, you don't, as you sit here today, you're not sure if it was a 911 call or some other type of call.
yes.
Okay. And what other types of calls might be something that not a 911 call?
Could you be more specific?
Yeah. So if it's not a 911 call, what other type of call might it be?
Could have been a call to a non-emergency line?
Okay.
Yes.
Someone could have called an Akron, not an emergency line, another Akron police phone number
Yes,
and said, hey, there could be some fighting down at I Promise School.
yes,
Okay. And I believe you said later on that you spoke to a person around that area and they said arguments are frequent around the basketball court, something like that.
yes.
Have you ever been called to this scene before?
I have not, and that's not my regular area of work.
You mentioned you're working like an overtime shift?
I was.
Okay. So does that mean at this point, this is like what, 10:30, 11 p.m.?
It was a little bit before 11,
A little bit before 11. So at this point, you've been working how many hours?
8.5.
Okay. And your overtime shift is just starting this?
Yes,
Have you been called to the I Promise School before?
I don't think so.
Okay. I apologize for kind of bounce around.
That's okay.
You get a call from dispatch that says there's a fight at I Promise School. When you arrived, I think originally you said you got there at the same time, but it looks like maybe you got there just a few minutes behind him, and that's, you know?
Like I said, I don't know exactly, about the same time. I could have been following them down Market Street for all I know.
Okay. And you said something, I wrote it down, you said, where's the witness? You said, hey, where's the witness, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is it your belief at that time that you're gonna show up on scene and there's someone there on the scene looking for police help?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't find that?
No.
Okay. And based on the information from dispatch, I believe you said you didn't know anybody was injured.
What?
Is that right?
Say it again.
Okay. The call you got, well, break it down. You got a call from dispatch, right?
Yes.
And it said, go to I Promise School, right? Because there's a fight. In addition, you didn't know there was a fight and somebody was seriously injured or potentially deceased.
I don't believe that's true. I believe the actual call would have been a fight with injury because I was going to the scene, lights and sirens. So I was responding in emergency for somebody in trouble.
Okay.
And it was just a regular fight. I would not drive hot to that call. With lights and sirens.
Gotcha. So maybe dispatch said there's a fight and
With injury.
with injury.
Sure.
Okay.
And that's why EMS would have been dispatched as
Okay.
well.
And that night, you didn't find any witnesses on scene?
No.
Okay. And you didn't receive any other information from dispatch about what might have happened?
I'd have to look at the call notes to see.
Okay.
I do not remember exactly what was in the call notes, or
Okay.
I don't recall exactly what was said from the radio on my way there.
I saw when you were looking through the car, you found a couple driver's licenses. Is that right? You found two of them?
I believe only one in the car.
Okay. Was there some point you had two licenses side by side?
The other officer had found another license. I don't know off the top of my head where he found it, and we compared the two.
I understand. And do I recall that both of those licenses, the photos were vertical? They were vertical orientation? Right?
Yes.
And does that mean that the people are underage?
Usually, yes.
Okay. I mean, if you're over 18, it's a,
If you've had your license updated, yes.
yeah, then it's a horizontal license.
Yes.
Right. Mine's probably horizontal.
Probably.
And then if you're under 18, then it's a vertical.
Yes.
Okay. And that, it looked like both of those were vertical driver's licenses.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned these guns and you said you know from having kids. Have you seen these guns or whatever? Have you seen them fired?
Yes.
You know what they sound like?
Yes.
What does it sound like?
Like a toy gun,
Okay. And
like an electric motor.
that electric motor in it?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it shoots like pellets like a BB gun, something like that?
Slightly bigger than what you would consider a BB and softer.
Okay. You said they might be made out of polymer,
Yeah, some kind of, science thing.
just based on your perception. One moment.
Would you want to get shot with a fucking Orbeez gun? No. And if I shot you with it, officer, you'd fucking arrest me with it for assault. So let's just be for a minute. Yes, it's a toy that if I shot you in the face with, you'd be worried about getting blinded over. So it's not just a toy. It's like calling an airsoft gun a toy.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I want to go back and look at State's Exhibit 3 again. You mentioned this earlier, right? You said this was an accurate photo as far as you know.
Yes.
I'm just going to point here into the center. Are these all like potholes or holes or what are those? I'd like to know.
They look like potholes. They could be fluid. I am not 100% sure by the picture, and I don't know.
Have you been to the I Promise School since June 2nd of last year?
I don't believe I've taken a call for service there, but I probably checked it in patrol. I know it's been, especially after this, it was a place of concern that we would patrol more regularly.
So you're saying after this, it became, I Promise School became an area of concern for Akron police?
You could, yes.
Okay. Is it possible that this pavement that we're looking at in State's Exhibit 3, that it doesn't, it's in better condition, that maybe it's been repaired, it doesn't have all these potholes at this time?
That's possible.
Okay, but you don't recall one way or another?
No.
Okay, fair enough. No other questions this time. Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Thank
Ken?
you, Judge. Very brief on the below, please. Officer, thank you for your time. A couple of questions that just sort of occurred to me as I was listening to your cross-examination, and I'll direct your attention back to State's Exhibit 4, please, and the placards that exist
Please, a
here.
second.
Officer, are you able to see a placard listed as number 3 in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 6. State's Exhibit number 6. If you could identify this for the jury, if you are able to do so.
That would be the Orbeez gun that I saw.
Okay, and it has a placard by it, is that right?
It is, yes.
And what placard is that?
Number 3.
And do we see placard number 3 in this photograph, State's Exhibit number 4?
Yes.
Okay. And it may be a little bit difficult to describe, but can you sort of direct the jury's attention? In effect,
I just turned it on.
perfect. Thank you, Judge.
Do you want me to touch the screen?
That'd be great, please. Yeah.
I need to circle or.
Circle it. Okay. So it looks like you put a green circle around placard number 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that where the Orbeez gun was when you saw it?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
And you indicated that you could tell it was not a real gun. Is that right?
Yes.
How do you know it's not a real gun?
The colors, and I think that would have been a pretty popular model. I believe one of my children showed me that on Amazon is the one that they wanted.
Okay. And next, I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 7. Do you recognize this image here?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what that is?
It's a wallet and a magazine type thing for the Orbeez gun.
Okay. Just so the jury's aware, when you say magazine, can you tell the jury what that might mean?
I don't know the exact way a Orbeez gun works, but for a regular gun, a magazine is what holds the ammunition that it would shoot the projectile. So that's what I imagine that would be. It could be a battery pack. I don't know how they work.
Okay. And do you see any Orbeez in that image there?
I do not believe I do.
Okay.
Unless those small orange things, I don't know if they're pieces of plastic, they could be Orbeez because they are pretty round.
Okay. Do you know if that's the wallet you found in the parking lot?
I couldn't tell you 100%.
But we do see placard number 4 there, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you take another look at State's Exhibit number 4 and see if you see placard 4 in that image?
And officer, you see where it says thin or thick at the bottom? I think that one's.
Oh, you want a
better.
thicker
We
one?
can- It would be easier to see it.
Gotcha, man.
There you go.
Okay. Do you know if that's the location where you found a wallet?
It would be about the location I found the wallet because once I knew Ethan was dead, I would have put it back about where I found it. Because I did pick it up to retrieve his license.
And there was some questioning about the licensing, driver's license, horizontal versus vertical. And the question had to do with if age 18 is when the license switches from one to the other. Is it possible that it's not age 18, but maybe age 21 it would switch?
Yeah, I believe at age 21 is when you get the vertical, but you're not required to renew your license until you're 21.
Okay, so it's not merely adulthood, it's maybe legal drinking age or something?
Yes, yes,
Right.
that would be a more accurate.
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Briefly. Officer, that picture we saw of the Orbeez gun, that was taken, again, probably with the aid of a flash photography, right?
Yes, probably.
And when you looked at it through the calmness of a flashlight, right? It's after everything's happened, you're walking around, you put your flashlight on it.
Yes,
And you recognize it to be a toy.
yes,
And you've seen these toys before.
yes,
And you indicate they shoot a pellet out of them.
yes.
You where they come out at a pretty high speed.
I've actually been shot by them, yes.
Okay. And then people describe it as to feel like just getting hit with a rubber band or something. It's not.
Sure.
Okay. And they make a sound, and you describe it as a toy sound, and throughout this thing, the jury's going to get to hear the sound, but it's a simulated machine gun sound, isn't it? You can laugh, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to go.
Machine guns are like, sure, the same cadence, not the same volume or pitch.
But
or-
that's part of the kit. I mean, that sound you're hearing isn't part of the little BB shooting out. It's an added thing to make it more fun.
I believe it's just the sound of the motor and whatever makes the BB go, but.
So, if I were to approach you in a dark parking lot and pull one of these things out and run up at you and start shooting you with it, and you start feeling things happen in your head, and you're getting hit with it, and you're hearing stuff, would you be justified in using force?
Sustained.
Would that cause you concern for your safety if someone starts shooting something at you?
I would object to this as well, just beyond the scope of.
You know, there's been testimony that it's a toy gun, and I'm saying this officer wouldn't react like it was a toy if it was aimed at him.
I think
Go ahead, Nancy.
that's a valid, good job.
Repeat the question so I know what I'm answering.
Is there any easy way to tell it's a toy in the dark?
Good job getting that in and arguing through that. Good job. Because that's how you got to get it through. In Ohio, initially cross-examination is open in scope. And if you guys didn't know that, sorry, I should have clarified that. In Ohio, cross-examination is open to any topic. It's we don't do it like some states where you're limited to what the prosecutor says. Nope. Cross-examination is open in scope. The state did a redirect. This is recross. Recross is limited to what's only been asked on redirect. Well, the state brought in that it's a toy. They're allowed to say, well, if in the middle of the night you wouldn't think it's a toy, and he's agreeing. So good job. The argument I would have made.
Doesn't
No.
glow in the dark, does it?
No, I mean, no.
Okay. And you couldn't take that chance as an officer on the street. If I'm shooting you in the face with this thing, are you going to smile at me?
No.
You may not shoot me, but you're sure as heck going to take that thing off me, aren't you?
I would object, Your Honor.
Further questions?
No recross.
Very good, briefly, Judge.
Oh.
Officer, there's been a lot of questions about how similar this thing is to a machine gun. Have you ever been around a real machine gun?
Yes,
Okay, have you ever fired a real machine gun?
yes,
Is an Orbeez gun anything even remotely close to a real machine gun?
no.
What is a machine gun for?
A machine gun would be an instrument of war.
Okay, and what is an Orbeez gun?
As a toy.
That's all I think.
How do you know the difference?
Spent over 20 years as an infantryman.
Did you know the difference when you were 19 years old?
Yes,
Do you think these kids knew the difference?
Sustained.
Do you have any knowledge that these kids walk around with the same experiences as you, a law enforcement, a military guy?
yes,
Okay. These guys weren't in the military. What makes you
Sustained.
why do you think they know what a machine gun sounds like?
Objection.
Sustained.
Would you agree with me that the rest of us might not know what a machine gun sounds like? The difference between a real one and a fake one?
No,
You would agree with me, you think we can all tell the difference?
I would agree that, what?
I mean, I'm just asking.
I,
It's tough to tell sometimes, isn't it?
no,
It's not tough to tell?
no,
Okay. Then what's the point of the Orbeez challenge?
Objection.
If you know.
Isn't that the whole kick, to make people believe that they're getting shot at?
Object.
Yeah, there's no foundation.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Walter. You may step down.
thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, thank you. Next, the state will call EPD Officer Gavin Lockhart.
Okay, very well. And as you're getting him, Deputy, can I talk to you for just one moment?
Yes, ma'am. Can you stand, please?
Yes, if you raise your right hand first. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the truth, and nothing but the truth? You take the witness stand.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Javan Lockhart, L-O-C-K-H-A-R-T.
Okay, sorry about mispronouncing your first name.
You're fine.
Where do you work, sir?
Akron Police Department,
And what do you do there?
patrol officer.
Okay, and how long have you worked for APD?
It'll be 4 years in December.
4 years in December?
Mhm.
And is that the extent of your law enforcement career?
Yes.
What's your official title there?
Just patrol officer.
Okay. And has that been your title your entire time there?
Yes.
Is there a particular shift that you work?
Currently, it is from 4 to 2 a.m. At the time of the incident, it was, I want to say 7 to 3.
So 7 p.m. to 3 a.m.?
Mhm.
Can you tell the jury what what your duties and responsibilities are as an officer for APD?
Yeah, respond to calls, make proactive traffic stops. That's pretty much the extent of control.
Okay. Do you drive around while you're doing this?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know if you typically drive or if you have a partner that drives?
So at the time, I had a partner and we would switch off driving.
Okay. And so you've said a couple times now at the time. Are you referring to June 2nd of last year?
Yes.
And obviously that was a work day for you.
Mhm.
And it was that 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift.
Yeah.
And is there a particular area within Akron you're supposed to be?
So that night, me and my partner were in District 12, which is our Highland Square area. It goes down from,
And I'm sorry, officer, if you could keep your voice up just a little bit.
okay. Yeah, it goes from, it goes across Market down towards Copley, over towards the zoo. It's a specific area, but it's mainly the main focus is that Highland Square area.
Okay, and are other officers presumably assigned to other areas of Akron?
Yeah.
Are there any instances where you would leave your district and go to another?
Yeah.
What would be an example of that?
So if another car is on a call in a different district and my district neighbors theirs, they can send us. If I feel that a call gets sent out in a different district that they need more backup, I can go. Or even if I just feel I need to leave district to go to a separate call in a different district, I can leave. There's no hard restraints on us staying in our district. We just stay in our districts to actually patrol our districts, and this is what we're assigned.
Okay, and I think you mentioned you had a partner with you that day?
Yeah.
That evening. Do you know who that was?
Officer Markham,
And do you know which one of you was driving that day?
I believe he was.
Are you and Officer Markham still partners?
No, we're on different shifts now.
Okay, when you were working that day, what sort of clothing did you have on?
Same thing I'm wearing now. I think I may have had on short sleeves, uniform shirt, outer carrier, pants and boots.
Okay, can you say that again for me, please?
Just our regular uniform, short sleeve, patches, outer carrier, pants and boots.
Are you saying outer carrier?
Yeah, our vests.
Okay, is there armor in there?
Yeah,
Okay. And what sort of vehicle were you guys in?
our regular patrol car, marked patrol car.
As part of your uniform, I think some officers have body cams, is that right?
Yeah,
And do you recall some sort of call coming in asking you to go to the I Promise school?
yeah.
Okay, can you tell the jury, what that call was and what you did next?
So we received a call for a fight with injuries at I Promise in the parking lot. Our caller was supposed to be near the scene, if not on the scene. So we drove to it. We didn't have any much information other than there was a fight, but the victim was supposed to still be breathing, conscious. And then when we arrived on the scene, the parking lot was empty. I believe there was one other officer there somewhere off in the back, and EMS was with Ethan. And I walked up to them. I asked them how it was, because at this point I was still under the assumption that it was just a regular fight. And the EMS officer paramedic just looked at me and told me it doesn't look good. And then we proceeded from there.
Okay. So do you know, when you arrived, I think you said there was one other officer already there, is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Were there any other officers or fire personnel or anything?
It was the one med engine with, I believe, 2 paramedics, me and my partner, and that one other officer. That was it.
Okay. And did you know where to go when you pulled into the I Promise school?
We pulled in and went straight to where the med unit was because we assumed they would be out with the victim.
Okay.
We pulled in and went straight to the med unit because we assumed they'd be with the victim.
Did you have the opportunity to get close to Ethan and observe him?
Yes.
In the parking lot? Did you perform any sort of medical treatment on Ethan?
I didn't. EMS was already out with him.
Okay. Did you observe them doing something?
When I approached them, I believe they were taking off the EKG leads.
Okay, what did you do at that point?
I walked up, I observed Ethan, made my personal observations, went back, spoke to EMS, let them finish their process, and then began to walk around the scene, see if we can find anything that just seemed out of place, like it didn't belong.
Okay, did you find anything like that?
There were several shattered cell phones laying in the immediate area. There were identification cards. The car was parked not too far away from him. It looked as if the sunglasses visor had been ripped out. There was miscellaneous clothes on the basketball court, and then we walked around to see if we could find cameras on the school. I believe we found one that may have been facing the basketball court.
Okay, so You looked for cameras on the school?
Yes,
Okay. And did you go to any neighboring businesses personally and look for cameras?
me personally, no.
Did you go through any of the sort of neighboring, the neighborhood to look for cameras or anything?
No, I didn't leave because me and my partner were at this time, we're the only two officers on scene. We didn't know where that other officer was at that point in time. We knew his car was there, but we didn't actually see him.
Okay, okay. And so you said you were looking for things that were out of place. You mentioned some cell phones.
Mhm.
If you were to see those, do you believe you might recognize them today?
Yeah.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 8 and have you identified for the jury if you are able to do so. Do you recognize this image here?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell the jury what that is?
That's two of the cell phones and an ID I found near the pillar that was near the victim's body. I'd picked up the ID to see if it was possibly belonged to the victim because I couldn't see it when it was on the ground. Saw that it didn't and placed it back with the cell phones. They were right next to the pillar when I found them.
Okay, so that's not where you actually found them?
No, it was right next to where I found them.
And can you tell the jury why you touched them?
Just to see if there would be anything that I would be able to identify the victim. We still had no name for him at this point in time. Sometimes cell phones have they have like little wallet holders on the back of them where you keep identification cards. Once I saw that it didn't have any of those things, I just placed them back down.
Your Honor, would it be possible to turn off the sort of drawing feature there on
Yes.
the camera? Okay, and sir, you did indicate that you were in a position to view Ethan's body, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, did you note any injuries when you looked at him?
So when I approached him, he was laying on his back. His color was pallid, as if he had been passed out. I observed what appeared to be vomit on his face and what appeared to be tread marks from a shoe on his torso.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to show you what's previously been marked State's Exhibit number 5. Do you recall if that's how Ethan looked when you saw him at the scene?
Yep.
Okay. And you made reference to tread marks. Is that something that's visible in this photograph here?
I can't see it, not in this photo.
Okay. You made reference to EKG being hooked up to Ethan, is that right?
Yeah, that'll be the black and white circles on his arms and at his hip.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 9. I'm going to have you identified for the jury if you are able to do so. Do you know what that is, sir?
Yeah, that's the bruise right up under his shirt that I was talking about that appeared to be a tread mark from a shoe.
Okay. And you indicated that there was a light pole nearby, I think, where you put the cell phones. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if it was on? Was it providing light?
I believe it was.
Were you involved in the collection of other evidence throughout the parking lot that evening?
No, that would have been our crime scene unit.
Sorry, guys, I was on the phone.
Did you stay while they came and processed the scene?
Yeah.
While you were there, did you talk to any other lay witnesses?
So there was a individual that showed up. I don't believe he was a witness, but he knew what was occurring. He said, I don't recall him saying that he was there, but I spoke to him and was able to get Ethan's mother's information to make a notification to her.
Okay, and were you involved in making that notification?
No, I passed that on to our victims assistants and our detectives.
Sir, did you notice anything out of the ordinary with regard to the vehicle that was left on scene there?
Yeah, so it was in the middle of the parking lot. I believe one of the doors was open and the sunglasses visor to the car was behind it, like it had been ripped out.
Okay, if you were to see that today, would you recognize it?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 10. Do you know, is that the sunglass visor thing you were talking about?
That would be it.
And that's a true and accurate photograph of the scene as you saw it that night?
Yeah.
Did you immediately know what that was?
Yeah, just because I've seen them before. And when you looked inside of the car, you could also observe that the area that would have a sunglasses visor was empty.
Okay. Like it was ripped out of there?
Mm-hmm.
Did you, at any point, touch Ethan's body or clothing?
No.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, officer.
How's it going?
I'm fine, sir. How's it going for you?
Pretty good.
So, the medical personnel were there working on Ethan before any law enforcement got there. Is that accurate?
As far as I know, I'm not sure if they were already working on them with the other vehicle. I believe it was the officer that was in just before me.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they were working on when he got there, but when we got there, they were finishing up.
How quickly did you get there? Fairly quickly?
Pretty quickly, yeah.
And the EKG or the little stickers we see on Ethan,
Mm-hmm.
we can assume those were attached to a machine of some sort, right?
Yeah, so the stickers get put on the hips and the arms, and then they.
Was that already done by the time you got there?
Yeah, they were finishing that when we got there.
So we don't know if Ethan's body was in the same exact position it was right after the event happened, or whether medical personnel were required to move him around in order to try and accommodate treatment.
Yeah, no, I would have no idea whether they moved
Okay.
or not.
And when you got there, it seems like all you guys had some hope that maybe Ethan would be okay.
I did not.
You did not?
I did not. After I walked up and saw him, I didn't make any pronouncements because that's not my job. But I was essentially waiting for EMS to give me the okay that he had been cleared.
They'd already walked away by that point. EMS is no longer doing chest compressions. They're no longer.
They're not doing anything, and they haven't moved him. So typically when that happens, we're going to call out a death.
But I do see that Ethan lost a lot of bodily fluid. He lost it through his eyes, his ears, his up. Is that, do you know if that's consistent with the beating or if it was consistent with the brain hemorrhage?
The brain water.
Do you have any information on that?
I would not know.
Okay. What's the significance of this sunglass thing? Do you know?
No. All I know is that it was out of place. It appeared like the whole scene appeared as if there had been a fight, and it just appeared like as part of that fight that somehow that sunglasses visor was ripped out. I don't know if it would have been part of the fight or being put out of part what.
Now, you search cars in your line of work, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. And folks place things, good things, bad things, but sometimes they place things in compartments of their car, and the sunglass holder is somewhere where you would put your sunglasses or anything else you're keeping up there, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know if anybody retrieved anything from the sunglass holder in a hurry and pulled it out. it doesn't look like a heavy thing you would use for a weapon, right?
No, not a weapon.
Right. There wouldn't be any real reason to reach up. Is it located up here?
Yes.
So is it logical to think that maybe somebody, even EMS looking for ID, but somebody maybe tried to get in that sunglass holder to look through it and it just popped out, or it's all the way over in the
No.
by the body?
In my experience, it takes not a significant amount of force, but an intentional amount of force to pull those out.
Well, I mean, here, when my Toyota, I keep my spare key in that little thing, and it breaks off every time I pull it out too far.
That's not a question.
I'm just, how'd this one get out? Do we even know how this would get out or why it would be out of the car?
Like I said, I don't know why it would be out of the car. I just know it would take an intentional, not necessarily an intent, but an intentional amount of force for it to be removed from a car.
Just seems odd, right? Out of place. There are phones there, and the phones are broken. At least the screens are broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your line of work, you also, these days, gather phones as part of investigations. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, with modern technology, sometimes you can tell a lot about what happened before and after an event by reading people's text messages and things like that.
Yeah.
In fact, the APD has a whole crime scene unit up on is it the second floor, the fifth floor?
Second.
I mean, they got a whole crime scene devoted to processing things like that, right?
Yeah.
And you routinely hand over phones, and sometimes investigators for this or investigators for this will crack them open and find information.
Mm-hmm.
Did you try and power these phones on or anything?
I didn't.
But you did preserve the phones and turn them over as part of the investigation, so we can assume that your superiors or the investigators or the folks who took over after you gave them that, you safeguarded those phones, you hand them over, and they should be somewhere down the road in the case.
So outside of me touching them initially and placing them back down, I didn't touch them again after that. So whoever collected them would have been, it wasn't me, so I have no idea who touched them after that.
But you clearly, you picked them up and you looked at them and you put them, to you, they were significant.
Just so I didn't know if they were significant or not. I just knew that they were foreign to the scene, like they wouldn't have normally been there. So I placed them back down for somebody else to make that determination whether they would be of evidentiary value or not.
You didn't assume that they were discarded trashes and people just leave cell phones all around. It looks like it had something to do with the young man laying there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, officer.
Afternoon.
Officer Lockhart.
Yep.
I'll I represent Tyler and Stafford. Just a few questions. Let's start with this sunglass holder. You were there on scene, right? You were the second officer or third officer there?
So me and my partner would have gotten there at times, so it would have been second on scene.
Okay. And I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Your job is to collect all the evidence you can.
To know where it's at and preserve it, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, like you see some sunglass holder laying on the ground, and you're like, we need to make a record of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes I mean, this is not the first scene you've been to, right?
Right.
And so sometimes you know something, or they take photos, and it turns out to be it's really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other times it has absolutely no meaning whatsoever.
Yep.
But at the time, you don't know what's important or what's not important.
Yeah.
So you record everything you can find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean,
Sir, you need to say yes or no.
Oh, yes.
And so the sunglass holder, if there's any relevance to this investigation, right now you don't know what it is.
No.
Okay. But you collected information anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Whether it's relevant or irrelevant, you're supposed to report it no matter what.
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Has this the first time you've been called to the I Promise school?
So the I Promise school in
Yeah.
general, I don't believe so. I've been once or twice before this.
Okay, there might have been a couple other calls before this?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that for fights or something else?
I believe once may have been for a fight. One may have been for just a suspicious person walking around the school after hours.
Okay, okay. Now, there was some talk about seeing Ethan Lining lay there and deceased. You were asked by Mr. Sen on cross, you don't know if EMS had to move him to do any kind of EKGs, you don't know anything about that.
No,
If an EKG was done, that was before you got there.
they were finishing, like I saw them walking away with the machine as I walked up.
And you haven't read anything, you don't know if his friends tried to move him or get him into a car before they left the area?
So from what I had gathered, all his friends were in the process of running, and one of them saw him falling, and none of them came back to the scene, so I don't think any of them moved him.
Okay, as far as you know, you don't think any of the friends tried to move him?
No.
Okay. Now, did your investigation end on June 2nd, or did you do anything after June 2nd?
I didn't.
Okay. You were, I don't want to re-show it, but you were shown a photograph of what you think might be a tread mark or a footprint or something like that?
Yes.
Is that just like your gut feeling, or do you kind of think it looks like a shoe print?
It looks like a shoe print. As me and my partner were on the scene looking at him, I literally looked at my partner and I said, that's a shoe print on him right there.
Now, as far as you know, did anyone,
It's a brainwash
did
the
any
shoe
forensic
prints.
person come out and say, we're going to see if that's true, or we're going to analyze it, measure it, the size of it, or see if
No,
okay. So, I mean, it might be a shoe print, or maybe it isn't.
maybe.
Okay. And if it is a shoe print, we don't know whose it is, at least you don't today?
No.
Okay. Okay. Did you talk to EMS at all before they left the scene?
So as I approached, I asked what condition he was in, because at this point, when I initially got there, I just assumed it was still a typical fight. And they had told me that it didn't look too good. Then I spoke to them again after they had spoke to the doctor that had pronounced him dead.
Did they tell you the cause of death was trauma to the back?
They didn't give me a reason for the cause of death.
Okay. So you don't know the cause of death?
No.
You just know the person is deceased. Do you remember the area? I mean, if you just looked at a photograph where there was a driver's license, it looked like it was laying, was it like on a light pole or something like that?
On the basic one, yes.
On the basic light pole. And that's near the area where Ethan Lang was found? Right?
Yes.
In that area, were there a bunch of potholes on the pavement?
Not that I can recall.
Could we look at State's Exhibit 3? Let's see. Is this one? If I just went, oh, you're right. So we're talking about State's Exhibit 3. Does this look like what you saw that night?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in the center of this is look where there's a drain or a sewer grating here.
Yes.
Right. And then it looks like above it and around it, there's all kinds of, I don't know, potholes or fractured pavement or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like fractured pavement.
Okay. Have you been out to the I Promise School after June 2nd, 2022?
A few times.
Okay. Do you know if this has been repaired or you think it's in this condition?
No idea.
Okay. I appreciate that. No other questions. Thank you, sir.
Very briefly, Judge.
Trenton, you're right. It's the doctor to say that, but it looks like he's pretty much was dead.
All right, sir. We already looked at State's Exhibit number 10. We identified it for the jury. Can you remind them what that is, though?
That's the sunglass visor.
Okay, and then we see number 8 card right by there, right?
Yes.
Was that card there initially when you arrived?
No.
And is that an identifier that APD would use to mark evidence?
Yeah.
And would that have been, with the sunglass visor piece, would that have been moved by APD prior to putting an evidence placard by it?
No, it would not.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what's marked State's Exhibit number 4. And I'm going to ask, Your Honor, I'm sorry, could you put the marking tool back up, please, Judge? If you're able to see placard number 8 in this photograph, if you could maybe circle it on your screen there. Okay. So it looks like you put a little green circle around placard number 8, is that correct?
Yes,
And is that where the sunglass visor piece is?
yes.
So next I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 2. And I'm going to ask you to, if you're able to do so, to mark the vehicle in that image where the sunglass visor piece came from. Okay, so it's up there. And are you able to see placard number 8 in this image? So I think there were some questions about whether officers might have ripped it out looking for identification or something. Is that right?
Whether EMS would have, but I don't believe EMS even approached the car.
Okay, and if they had, would they have carried it
No,
across the parking lot and set it down at a different spot?
no.
Thank you, that's all I had.
I guess I'm just trying to catch the relevance of this thing. Do you have any idea how this thing got in the parking lot or what purpose it would be there for?
How it got in the parking lot? I'm assuming it fell out of the car.
Okay, so I guess I want to follow up on that because we think the car, we know this thing sits up here and it holds stuff, right? Sunglasses.
Yes,
And now it's not there anymore. It's somewhere in the parking lot by where you circle.
yes.
Are you trying to say that it fell out of the parking lot because it fell there in that spot because that's where a car had been earlier?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just answering the questions.
I mean, somehow this thing got out of the car and it's now across the parking lot from the car.
Yes,
And we don't know that it just like fell out of the door of the car and dropped right there. It got there somehow, but we just don't have any idea.
I don't know.
And I guess I'm just missing whether or not you're aware of whether this means anything or has some evidentiary value.
I have no idea what value it holds to this. I just documented it because it was out of place.
Thank you.
Mr. Dalkin, please.
No, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, officer. You may step down.
I need a short one.
Great. Okay, let's take a short break.
Okay, the one thing I'm pissed off about is he's got his goddamn hat out of the courtroom. You're not allowed to do that. Everybody else would get yelled at for that, except him because he's a cop. You're not supposed to wear fucking hats inside. God damn. Yeah, why is he wearing a hat in court? Because he's special. Is this redirect? Yes, that was State's redirect, and that was... Yeah, that's not the... This guy isn't the biggest witness. I'd argue the first officer was, and then we'll get to more of it.
At this time, you would just, 12 minutes or so would be 2:40. So let's take a 10 to 15 minute break and then we will reconvene. Thank you.
All right.
So we're going to go on break. And I love how the judge's like, oh, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Okay, well, 10 minutes goes by. A lot more than 10. It's like 20 minutes. But that's court for you. There are some judges who are like, nope, it's time. Bam, we're going. So here we go. Or to quote the great Mario, here we go. Yahoo! I wasn't yelling. I'm sorry. Oh, he looks thrilled to be here, folks. That's always a good sign.
Good afternoon. Can you give us your name, please?
Sergeant Robert S. Miller.
And you're employed with the Akron Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
In what capacity?
Work as a midnight supervisor for the Akron Police Department Crime Scene Unit.
All right, can you describe for the jury what the crime scene unit is?
Crime Scene Unit responds to major crimes in the city. Our duties and responsibilities are to identify items of evidence, collect, package, and preserve that evidence for submission to either laboratories or presentation in court.
All right, how long have you been in that position with the crime scene unit?
In the Crime Scene Unit since October of 2016.
And prior to that date, were you also an officer with APD?
Yes, I was hired in March of 2007
All right. Were you in patrol for that time period up till you went to the crime scene unit?
until December of 2015 when I was promoted to sergeant.
Sergeant, okay. So, Sergeant Miller, I want to ask you about a scene that you responded to on June 2nd of 2022, okay?
Yes,
The scene I'm talking about is the I Promise School, you're aware?
Yes.
Okay. About what time did you receive the call there from detectives, I would guess, right, to come bring the crime scene unit out to the I Promise School?
I don't remember the exact time I received the call, but it was during our shift for the midnight shift.
Midnight shift, okay. And what were your hours be for midnight?
We worked from 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. All right, so do you respond to the I Promise School?
Yes, I did.
And just tell us, as part of the crime scene unit, do you bring anything with you when you respond to any kind of scene?
Yes, we have a large vehicle we'll bring with us with myriad of packaging supplies, as well as collection supplies that are all sterile for any type of evidence we might encounter, whether it be biological, DNA sources, or a physical object that we would need to collect.
Did you, or sorry, strike that. What was the type of call that you received?
We received a call that a body was found in the parking lot of the I Promise School on West Market Street. That the victim was still there and that a number of items of evidence had been located by responding patrol units and detectives. We were requested to come out to document that scene with photographs, video, and then collect that evidence.
Okay, so you documented the scene with photographs and video?
Correct. I responded with my team that night, which had been Detective Simona Hall and Detective Danny D'Annunzio. Detective D'Annunzio photographed that scene. I took video as well as scans, and then Detective Hall collected and packaged evidence from that initial scene.
All right. So when you get to that scene, what is it like?
It's fairly vast. It incorporated the parking lot and the basketball courts, as I remember. It's a fairly wide area.
And the patrol officers that were on scene or detectives, before you get there, how do you know what area it is you're going to be processing?
They demarcate that boundary with crime scene tape. They'll also place patrolmen in positions to make sure items of evidence aren't disturbed.
So items that may have been found on the ground or left, you hope, where they were found originally?
Correct.
All right. The crime scene video, in this case, have you reviewed it since you documented it back on the 2nd of June in 2022?
Once, yes.
Okay. And this is going to be marked as State's Exhibit 26. Jumping ahead. Judge, I would ask at this time to play State's Exhibit 26, which is the, I believe, can identify as the crime scene video. Any objection?
There you go.
Probably Hamas. I think one of the rockets got intercepted and crashed.
There's no sound with this, correct?
There shouldn't be. Usually we try to mute that so it's not distracting because it's a series of videos that are clipped together. This is location establishing, showing the intersection, the nearest street signs we could find for West Market Street and Valley Street.
You can go ahead and discuss what you're filming when you're doing it here.
From that same location, now panning around in the general direction towards where the I Promise School will be located, beyond the business shown here. This is the same working progression from that position of the street signs towards the location of the incident.
Looking at the McDonald's parking lot there.
Yes, and this section shows the entryway behind the McDonald's, south of McDonald's, in the direction of that parking lot for the I Promise School. Zooming in here to show approximate location where we parked the vehicle on the outskirts of that scene. This is our truck.
So we're in that alley kind of between I Promise School and Valley Street.
That's correct.
That's the dumpster, the McDonald's right there.
Yes. This is also location establishing. We're showing the signage for the I Promise School, marking the location. Panning shot in front of the I Promise School.
That's the entryway basically to the parking area
Correct.
we're going to go into here.
Correct.
Jenny, is your mic on?
This is continuing to work closer into the parking lot, moving forward into where we have placarded items of evidence. You can briefly see there at the bottom of the screen the placards in the foreground. This is the basketball court that's on the west end of the parking lot for the I Promise School.
Ooh, we're finally getting to see this
basically
stuff
the
now.
entrance there to the
Correct.
porch.
Correct. Here on the court, we have placard 15. This is marking a neon green shirt and what looks like an ace bandage that were located abandoned on the court. Another view of the same.
Is it fair to say that at this point you don't know what could be of evidentiary value or what's not, so you're just marking everything you see?
Right. You're looking for things that appear to be foreign to the scene that may or may not be evidence. That's going to be determined later by a case detective. But it was left on the scene where an incident occurred. It may be something that's unrelated. It may be something crucial to the case, but it was left there, so it was marked. It's a close-up view of placard 15, marking the ace bandage and neon green shirt.
Yeah, I don't think absent the Orbeez gun, anything happens at this situation.
We're now back on the far east side of the scene. This is the parking lot for the I Promise School. I'm going to zoom in on placard 1. This is a McDonald's drink cup. Looked like it was in fairly pristine condition, probably new. It didn't look like it had been there for very long. So again, it was placarded as possible. You can also see the spread out of the other placards in the body of Ethan Liming laying in the parking lot.
Oh, we're not going to see the body? Weak.
Zooming in on some of the other placards here. Placard 2 is marking a piece of a type of BB gun, a splatter soft. And placard 3 is the BB gun itself. This is another panning angle of the same. On the north end of that lot, panning from the east to the west, showing the layout of placards and the position of the deceased victim.
And I see some light sources that you bring with you to light up the scene.
Correct.
The lights.
It's a close-up of deceased victim, Ethan Lyman.
I think he's breathing a little bit out of his nose.
Again, close-up on placards 2, 3, and 4. They're pieces of the splatter soft BB gun. Another overview angle of the same lot, slightly further west, looking back toward the east, showing positions of the various placards. It's another close-up view showing position of the deceased victim. We're panning now back towards the basketball courts, showing its location in reference to the parking lot.
I think we just, that's the sun visor?
Yes.
Glasses visor?
Yes, sunglasses, visor. It's parked to a vehicle.
And I think the one we're looking at right now, that placard in the center is a shoe.
Yes, it's a
slide.
flip-flop. Flip-flop sandal. Placard 12 over there on the far right, marking a basketball. Here we're starting with placard, a basketball and a key.
Yeah, guys, I'll set up Rumble tomorrow. I didn't have time. They're playing basketball.
What are 13 and 14?
13, I believe, is a printout from an EMS unit, I think. I'd have to look at it from another angle. 14 is a cell phone. This is just another layout of the placard seen from this angle. These are going to start close-ups. This is a close-up view of the drink cup that was found on the east end of the parking lot. Placard 2 is a piece of a splatter soft BB gun. Placard 3 is the BB gun. Placard 4 is a magazine that contains the BBs for the BB gun. We also have a wallet here. I believe that was the victim's wallet.
You can see some of those orange Orbeez on the ground.
Yes, they would have come out of the magazine. Placard 5, we have some damaged cell phones here, as well as one containing an ID for last name subject was Dancy. Close-up view of the same. This is going to be placard 6, marking the victim, Ethan Lyman. We'll show several angles of the deceased victim in the parking lot. Just continuing to rotate about the body, show it from all sides. Placard 8 here is marking a sunglasses holder from a car. Placard 9 is a right flip-flop sandal. Placard 10 is a type of like face mask cover. Placard 11 is a left flip-flop sandal. Placard 12 is a basketball. There's also a key on the ground next to it. Placard 13 is a cell phone case. Placard 14 is a cell phone. I think that's an iPhone. And this is a photograph of video of my ID showing that I am the one that made the video.
along with the crime scene video, you said that it was Officer or Detective D'Annunzio who takes photographs of the scene as well.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what I've marked as states 2 through 25. So I'll hand you 2 through, I believe, 25. First, just kind of take a moment to flip through them, and then I can ask you questions.
Oh, we're opening something. My God, you guys are getting hot and fired up about the Holy Land. 144 pounds of salsa. Good job.
Photographs marked states 2 through 25.
I do. They're the photographs taken by Detective D'Annunzio on June 2nd of 2022.
And do they fairly and accurately represent the scene as it was when you got there?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
All right. We're going to put a few of them up on the overhead. There were some photos that were taken of the victim's face,
Yes.
and I'm just going to put up here marked, States Exhibit 16. On this picture, one of the ones you identified, do we know what is here in the center of Ethan's chest?
It's biological material. It could be blood. It looks like there's blood in it. I would suspect that that's also possibly some spit up or even vomit. I don't know for certain.
Okay.
I didn't have it sent out for testing, but it appears to be biological material.
And this is State of Ohio's Exhibit 17. What was the significance of this photograph?
Photograph here is looking at the back section of the victim's head. The hair appears to be saturated with blood, and it is also on the concrete, showing that some type of head trauma has occurred.
This one. 16. And this is State's Exhibit 18. What is depicted in the photograph?
This is the victim. We're looking at a close-up of the left side of his face. We can see petechial hemorrhaging, the ruptured blood vessels under the skin. About by the temple,
Objection, you are
as
not
well
a
as
medical
bleeding. It looks
expert.
like
How
it's
do you
coming
know
from
that?
the orbital socket area of the eye.
So you're referring to this area of
Correct.
bowl.
Again, it's indicative of head trauma.
Objection, where's his medical training?
And you indicated that there were some cell phones found in and around the scene,
Yes, ma'am.
or in the scene, I should say,
Yes.
not around. I'm going to show you states 20 that you just looked at.
Right, this is placard 5. This is the base of a light pole in the parking lot. And we're very nearby the victim, Ethan Lyman here. This is roughly adjacent to his body. There are 2 damaged cell phones here, and one of those has an ID card, the Ohio ID card. I remember the last name of the subject was Dancy. I apologize, I don't remember the first name.
And then what was the state of the cell phones?
Both had been completely smashed. Screens were destroyed.
This is State's Exhibit. Put 22. And what do we see here?
This, I think this is placard 14. This is a red iPhone that was found in the parking lot. Again, it was also smashed.
And in relation, it's hard to tell in this photograph, but do you know where it was located in the lot?
This is further west, away from the victim. It's closer towards the actual building of the school.
Oh, okay. Here's State's Exhibit 24.
We're looking at a close-up view of the same. This is the smashed Apple iPhone.
Smash or pass, guys. Apple iPhone. Oh.
State's Exhibit 25.
This is the side or torso of victim Ethan Liming. We're looking at some bruising on his side here. It's indicative of some type of trauma that happened to his side.
Ooh, so we're getting to the marks that were on him that you guys were asking about.
And similarly, this is State's Exhibit 9. We marked this earlier, just another maybe a little further out view of that
Yes,
injury.
this is slightly zoomed out a little bit further, but it's a view of the same. We can kind of see the indentation of the pelvic area in the lower right of the photo, and the belly button, the navel, is in the top. So you can kind of place this about on the side, about the start of the bottom of the rib cage, between the rib cage and the pelvic bone.
Man, this dog smells so bad.
This is State's Exhibit 2. Kind of an overall view from what direction?
We're on the east end of the parking lot here. We're looking west, south, southwest, towards the I Promise School. It's just showing a layout of all the placards that are visible from this angle. You really can't see into the basketball court from here, but this is the parking lot.
All right. So if I pointed out over here, what would be over here?
That's over by the basketball courts.
And
This
what
is
is
Icky
depicted
Dog.
here in the photograph? It's kind of small.
Showing them both at the same time is not a
Zoom in.
problem if they're not going to turn on each other.
In the center of the
Their
photograph
defenses are
here
linked.
by placard 6, we have Ethan Liming. That's the victim. Just beyond that, placard 7 is an EMS vital signs printout. When Akron Fire Department paramedics arrive with someone who appears to be deceased, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to check for vital signs. That paper was left behind. In the distance, you can see placard 12 about the center left of the screen that marked the basketball and the key that was found in the parking lot.
Where are we at? That's over here.
Just to the right of the cruiser bumper under the tree trunk.
Are you comfortable,
And then
buddy?
what is over here? What is this?
The vehicle, you're referring to the
Yes.
vehicle? That ended up being, I believe that was the victim's vehicle, and that was transported to our processing bay garage.
Was that vehicle in that location when you arrived on scene?
When I arrived, it was.
Are you aware if there were ever any keys found for that vehicle?
I'm not aware of that.
So that vehicle was towed to where?
800 Dan Street is our training facility, our training bureau. It's also where we have our processing bays for the crime scene unit. When we have a vehicle that we need to preserve as evidence, the outside, the inside, where we're going to process it as a separate scene, documenting with photographs, collecting evidence out of it, they're taken there.
All right. And the different items that we saw that are all marked with these yellow placards everywhere, are all those items actually, collected, taken into evidence by the crime scene unit?
Yes, they were.
So they'd be individually packaged and placed into evidence?
Correct.
All right. The photographs that, I haven't shown them all there, where you looked at everyone, 2 through 25, do they fairly and accurately represent the scene as it was when you were there that day?
Yes, ma'am.
That evening? And how about the crime scene video, that fairly shows the scene as it was when you got there as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said the Kia, which belonged to the victim, Ethan Liming,
Yes.
was that Kia then, we use the word process?
So we're going to cool up
Yes.
What
some
happens to
the
the Kia?
Israel stuff right now.
So it was taken to our processing bay.
And what does that mean? What do you do?
It was towed
Pretty nice.
without anybody touching it. It's kept in the condition that it was
Let's hold
found.
the dog right now.
Once it's unloaded inside that bay, detectives will go about obtaining permission to get into that car, either by the actual owner, which I'm suspecting would probably be one of the parents, or they would get a search warrant. In either case, once we get permission to get into the car, we'll go and begin a photo process, exterior, and then work our way inside the car. And that was done on June the 4th by two of my subordinate detectives, Detective Simona Hall and Detective Josh Teetsy.
All right. And you saw and all the photographs they took of that vehicle?
I'm required to, I'm the supervisor.
So if I showed you those, you'd recognize those?
You're a
Yes,
government employee. That doesn't mean shit.
Back to,
Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop. 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 Boop, 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 boop. Acting like a muffler so I sound like I'm underwater. How's that working out?
I'm gonna, we're gonna show some photographs of the vehicle. I'm gonna mark this as States 27, a folder of these pictures, digital folders, that's okay.
This is just getting all the crime scene stuff in, guys. I think we
Are
get
they
to some of the pictures
On
at
a
the end
flash
here.
drive, or they will be on a flash drive?
Go ahead. And I guess refer to specific one in States 27A.
Well, they are marked with some number, so I think I would refer to them as that number if possible.
Okay. So. This is, starting photograph is DSC 8699.
right.
Here we
so
go. Here's the car.
The DSC and the number, the Nikon digital cameras, whenever you take a photograph, they will assign automatically a index number to the photograph. and
Driving
they're
a Kia without a
sequentially
grill in it.
increased with each photo you take. So that's the serial number you're looking at for this photo. What we're seeing here, this is the beginning of the photo series taken by Detective Hall on June 4th, 2022. This is inside our processing bay at 800 Dan Street. We're looking at the Kia that was towed from the scene. And this starts the overall exterior photos documenting the condition of the outside of the vehicle.
So first you're gonna document the outside.
Correct.
We see some front end damage there, right?
There is a little bit in the grille. It's unclear to me looking at the photo exactly what happened, but there's obvious damage to the hood and the front of the grille.
We don't know if that happened, when that happened.
I don't know when that happened.
And Ms. Shuki, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
That's a big dent in the hood, actually.
Well, I
Gee,
think if you don't, yeah.
fuck did he hit?
Thank you. Thank you.
So this is DSC 8700, just another view of the vehicle.
Correct. Detective Hall is beginning to pan around the vehicle here, around the driver's side.
Fucking dog.
DSC 8701, 0203 continues that moving around the driver's side, around toward the back.
Okay. And at some point you are gonna, or they're gonna document the interior or any items in the interior, right?
Correct.
I'm gonna move to that. This next picture is DSC 8726. And what do we see there?
All right, so we're beginning to look at the interior of the vehicle for evidence inside here. In the cup holder, we have a water bottle, but it's been filled up with these splatter soft BBs. What they are is, it's a BB that's designed kind of like a sponge. It will absorb some water and maintain that water volume in it when it's loaded into the BB gun to be discharged. Here in the center console, we also see a wallet. There's some plastic bags in here.
All right.
It's hard
And
to
the
type with
water
a
bottle
dog in your
with
hands.
the Orbeez beads, or you describe them as being, there's water inside them?
Throughout them.
Okay.
The
You have to
volume is
hydrate
designed to,
them.
like I say, work like a sponge. If you take a sponge and you drop it into a bucket of water, it increases its volume because it holds water. Now, the sponge, you pull it out, it's gonna start draining out immediately. These are designed to hold that. They come like a gel.
If you would touch them or hold them, what would they feel like?
I've never held one myself. I don't really know.
Okay.
Poll is up.
This is
Poll is up.
8729 photograph.
So we're looking at a slightly wider angle here. This is looking in through the driver's side door. Underneath the seat, you can see an additional Splattersoft magazine. This would attach to the Splattersoft BB gun we saw in the previous photo series that it was marked by placard 3.
Can I get kisses, Bubber? Wow.
This is DSC 8733.
We're looking at a close-up view of that cup holder. Again, you can look, you see this is a water bottle. You have a pretty clear view of the BBs inside that water bottle.
This is 8735 photograph.
We're looking into the glove box here. Inside, I think we're going to see this in the next photo series. There was a bag that was located. And inside that small zipper bag, there were 2 smaller bags of marijuana, and I believe a digital scale that was located.
Buddy, you're starting to
Go
stink too much. I can't have you up here.
876 sorry,
Need to be able to smell again.
8736. What do we see here?
The same. So this blue bag was found in the glove box, and inside it contained these 2 small bags of marijuana and a digital scale.
It won't let you vote.
This is 8738.
This is a photograph of the 2 items of evidence shown in the earlier photos. The bottle of BBs from the cup holder and the magazine that was located under the seat. They've been removed from the vehicle. This is before they were packaged to show them
Well played.
what they look like next to each other, and then they would be packaged and tagged as evidence.
All right.
Look, they better not show us porn files.
This is 8740. What do we see there?
All right, so this is on the front passenger door of the Kia. On the window, there is, in dirt, a shoe print that was found on the vehicle. It looked as if someone had kicked the window. So that was photographed, and at a later time on June the 10th, we returned to this vehicle and actually removed the window and took it as evidence.
And let me ask you this. Go to the next picture, one moment. This is 8741. Is a closer up view of that shoe print on the passenger?
Correct. It's another view of the same, a little bit closer, a little bit better detail. You can see some of the tread impressions.
And you said this is the front passenger window.
Correct. And it's on the print is on the exterior surface of that window.
This is 8744.
This is just showing a view into the car through that window. Detective Hall is trying to catch an image of that print here from a different angle. It wasn't a successful picture. Again, that's the reason why we ended up grabbing that window out of there. The print is transit evidence. It's sometimes difficult to take a picture of that on a clear surface, and we don't want to lose it, so hence grabbing the window.
Okay. I think there's 8746 and 8747 are additional pictures of that same.
Correct. These are additional attempts to get a better detailed photo for comparison quality of those tread markings. This was a much more successful attempt to show that impression.
Okay. So, and the photographs we just saw there, State's Exhibit 27. Those are all fairly and accurately represent how the vehicle looked when it was towed and when it was photographed and processed.
Yes, ma'am, it was.
You have 1 minute. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the exhibit you used? Not the video, just the pictures.
These are here.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir, good day.
I'm not sure yet.
Now it's the defense's turn, guys. Going in the cross.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
You notice that they didn't ask that question. There's a reason why. You notice they didn't ask what kind of treads, what kind of shoes do these guys have? There's a reason why. Just saying.
Sir, what is your job title? I call you captain, detective, sergeant. I see the stripes.
Sergeant, detective.
Okay. Sergeant, with respect to the crime scene unit, do you have a specialty in the crime scene unit? And I guess what I'm getting at is, are you just a photographer? Not just a photographer. It's a career being a crime scene photographer, but is that what you are? Or is photography part of what you do? And you also unlock cell phones and pick up fingerprints and gather DNA?
Official title is a crime scene detective. I'm also
Okay.
a master evidence technician in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
So I think what we're looking at is the training that goes into that through OPATA. Akron Police Department crime scene detectives are required to go to a series of different schools that involves basic and advanced photography, fingerprint identification and comparisons, blood-stained evidence, forensic aspects of death, and a course called Evidence Technician, which teaches you how to identify evidence, correctly package it, and preserve it so that it can be used again later for laboratory analysis or presentation in court like this.
Okay. And you were in charge of some other officers during this case, other crime scene unit guys. So are you the head crime scene unit guy out there?
That evening I was, yes.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to ask you some questions and something about some photographs. You go out there and you try and document things that you find to be of evidentiary value, okay?
Yes.
The defense is going to allege that, we do allege that Ethan Liming wore a ski mask during this incident. Did you find any evidence to establish that there was a ski mask present at the scene?
Yes, at the I Promise School, one of the placards does mark what appears to be a ski mask type headwear.
Okay. Do you yourself know who owned that ski mask or who wore that ski mask during this event?
No, our job would be specifically to identify this item appears foreign to the scene, document it in the photographs and video, collect it, package it. It would be up to a case detective later on in their investigation to try to put that together.
And I saw that as Exhibit 10. You have a placard down there with Exhibit 10 for this ski mask, correct?
I believe that's right, yes.
And again, I don't have the video to pull up, but I don't think we need to. Do you remember where that ski mask was found in relationship to Ethan and the car?
I'd have to go back and look at the photos. I know it was in the parking lot, and I know it was further west of where the victim's body was laying.
Okay. And that evidence was preserved, and had you wanted to, that could have went off to a crime lab, we could have gotten DNA on it, had anybody thought that was required.
It could have been sent off. Whether or not DNA would be found, tests would have to confirm that.
Do we know if that happened, or we don't know?
I don't know.
That'd be for the detectives down the line, as the evidence comes in, to decide what they want to send out and don't send out.
Correct. Normally, the case detective would make that submission to, in this case, BCI.
There were some cell phones found broken, and do you have any information as to whether or not those cell phones turned on or did not turn on?
That wouldn't be up to us to do. What we would do is we have a specific room where we place those, a Faraday box that they would go into if we are unable to place them into airplane mode to preserve their their data.
Because you don't want anybody wiping them remotely, is that the idea?
Right. There is another unit at the police department, the criminal forensics unit, our computer guys. And they would take those and attempt to do a download on that.
Okay. And is it your understanding, based on your training education experience, that sometimes the contents of a telephone can be recovered even if the screen's broken?
Just like any computer, it can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it will.
And we've all had broken phones this day and age, but you guys have some special tools that get into phones and can sometimes unlock them and sometimes can download the contents onto a drive. Is that safe to say?
Depending on the phone, yes.
Do we know if that was done in this case?
That's not part of my purview. I do not know personally.
Okay. But you did collect them, document them, and pass them on down the line?
Correct.
These little Orbeez balls, you compared them to a sponge.
Yes,
Right. And that's because they absorb water.
correct.
And we saw that these were not necessarily in the magazine alone. We did see a magazine spill Orbeez balls in one picture, but we then saw what appeared to be a pop bottle full of Orbeez balls in the car.
Yeah, water bottle, yes.
Are you aware of the practice of freezing these Orbeez balls to make sure that they, like you freeze a sponge and the sponge is going to get rock hard? Are you aware that that's a practice? You freeze these balls?
After responding to the case, I had heard that people do that, but until the night of this incident, I was unaware that it took place.
There wouldn't be any way for you to determine whether a ball was frozen previously any more than if you could tell a drop of water was an ice cube one time, right? It warms up.
I don't know. It would depend on the nature of the material, whether freezing would cause damage to it with ice crystals.
Okay. We can assume, though, that much like a sponge, the more you freeze these things, the harder they're going to get.
Frozen object's going to be solid, yes.
And you also discovered a bag in the car with that contained drugs.
Correct.
No way, this guy's making
And
$250
it had
a year.
multiple baggies of, it had 2 baggies of marijuana.
Yes.
This ain't San
And it looks
Francisco.
like it had 2 additional baggies that maybe at one point had contained marijuana.
There were 2 additional bags. I don't know if they contain marijuana or not, but there were 2 additional pieces of plastic.
And these were all contained into a closed kit of sort, a shaving bag type thing, correct?
The 2 bags of marijuana and a digital scale were inside that bag, found in the glove box.
Yeah, now, what are digital scales used for in your experience as a police officer?
I've found only 2 uses for them personally, in common on the street. One is used by a dealer who would want to weigh out drugs for someone they're selling to. The other is used by someone who's buying for personal use that wants to make sure they're not getting cheated.
Right. And then you also look at how the drugs are packaged and whether there's multiple baggies, correct?
Yes.
Multiple baggies would tend to support that someone's selling drugs as opposed to buying.
I would object, Your Honor. I think that's beyond the scope of this officer's role in the investigation.
That's okay, I'll withdraw that.
Training and experience. Training and experience. Fucking hit him with that shit. They use it all the time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
1 second, Judge. Mr. Down. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want this done?
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Good day.
Donald Gallick, I represent Tyler Stafford. Just a few questions.
Sure.
One, you said that you found an ace bandage at some point?
Yeah, it's what it appeared to be, like a medical bandage wrap was found on the basketball court.
Okay. It was near maybe a basketball jersey or something like
It's a neon green shirt.
Okay. So did the bandage look new, or does it look like someone had used it and unraveled it down the road?
I'd say it didn't look like it had a lot of wear on it, but whether it was new or heavily used, I couldn't tell. They don't take a lot of wear very easily, that type of material.
Do you remember, is this a bandage, Are there some bands just for your ankle or some for your shoulder? Or?
I'd characterize it as a sports wrap. It's common for particularly people playing basketball that can have ankle injuries.
Okay.
And to support the ankle, we'll wrap the foot.
Okay. And one of the basketball players, we know there were some basketball players there during the sentencing.
I heard that there were, yes.
Okay. If one of these basketball players had an ankle injury, is that something you know or you don't know?
I do not know.
Okay. Someone else might have investigated that, maybe?
It's possible.
Okay. Just briefly on these pellet guns, whatever. You had a lot of talk about whether or not on cross-examination with Mr. Sen, maybe they're frozen, maybe they're not. There's no way for you to know.
No.
No way to know. But you did say they absorb water like a sponge.
Yes.
And you said they increase volume.
Yes.
And it also would increase weight.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And the heavier something is, the more force it will strike them.
Yes, force is mass times acceleration.
FM equals MA. Good enough. The pavement, we looked at this pavement a lot there. Now, Ethan Lyman's body it was found near like a sewer grate, like a few feet away, something like that.
Remember that, yes?
Okay. And the pavement looked kind of uneven. Is that true?
Yeah, it was not a completely level surface.
Okay. Do you know if later they went out and smoothed it?
I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that anyone moved Ethan Lyman's body after he fell?
Aside from EMS, no.
Okay. You think EMS might have?
They're going to have to manipulate the body some to be able to check his vitals and see if they can give him aid.
Okay. Now you were asked, you may do something else first. You were shown some injuries to the body's side.
Yes.
Right? Okay. You don't know what caused those injuries?
No.
Okay. And you don't know if those injuries were fatal?
I do not know.
I mean, it looked like there was a lot of head trauma, like the back of the head. Is that
Correct.
Okay. But someone else would do that actual medical analysis, not you.
Yes, I have no medical background to assist or perform an autopsy.
Okay. You were asked about this ski mask that you found?
Yes.
Like that. And what was it? Was it black?
Black, I think maybe with a little bit of gray on it.
Black and gray. And is it your job just to identify that ski mask and let someone else figure out who is wearing it and why?
Correct. Our job, we identify those items of evidence. And then we want to package them up and collect them in a way so we disturb them as little as possible to preserve whatever may be there for further processing. Be that at a lab or, again, presentation here.
No further questions at this time.
Ms. Shuki? Redirect.
Just briefly, I want to show you what we previously marked as State's Exhibit 4. And you were asking questions about a face covering, face mask.
Yes.
Do you see it here? Do you know what placard it was?
Yeah, it's in the foreground here, placard 10.
And this is State's Exhibit 28. And that's the,
Yeah, that looks like the head covering. It's a face mask type head covering. It's black with like a slight subdued gray pattern.
okay. If you know, is it, it was referenced as a ski mask. Does it go over your entire head and face, or is it something different?
I didn't see what it looks like pulled over someone's head. I know it pulls over the head. I don't think it completely obstructs view of the face.
Okay, like pulls up over your lower face area?
Right, the face is not 100% covered with it, but it does cover the head and face.
And like anything else left on the scene, you marked that with the placard too?
Yes.
I'm going to put up against State's Exhibit 4. So in the picture here, State's Exhibit 4, is it fair to say that the items, the placards, are pretty much scattered around the parking lot?
Yes.
This was one of Ethan's or somebody's shoe?
Yeah, it's a flip-flop sandal.
That's the mask. This is another.
Another flip-flop sandal, the partner to the one marked with number 11.
further, sorry, one moment. So from where Ethan's body laying over here, is that part of the vehicle, the sunglass?
Correct, yes.
And part of the Orbeez gun is 4?
Yes.
Record 4? And I think 3 is the Orbeez gun itself?
Correct.
So fair to say you had a pretty large scene, really?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Just briefly about this mask. We're also used to masks after the pandemic. But we're not talking about a COVID mask here, right?
That's correct.
This is something that maybe you'd pull over your head, and it would keep your head warm and your ears warm, and maybe your mouth warm, but your eyes and things would be out.
That's a very good and accurate description of it.
Okay, and so probably something designed to keep you warm.
Yes.
What month was this?
This was in June. This was June the 2nd of 2002. 2022.
Any what the weather was that night?
I don't remember it being hot, but it wasn't cold either. It was fair weather.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention today. That is the
it for today.
conclusion of the witnesses that will be presented this afternoon. We will recess then for the evening. If you would report back at 8:45 on Monday morning, you can report directly to the jury room. As we have discussed before, please do not talk about this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Tell everyone at home that you are not permitted.
So, true story. We are a bunch of fucking psychopaths, but that is how we roll. Did want to get a thing in here. Down forward punch for $2. Thank you. Saying patiently waiting for the Baldo murders in Minnesota. Maybe. And Ken, I just want to get this in. Sean taking over Crazy Trials. Keep the good work, you non-degenerate. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So, curious to see what you guys think. I mean, we really haven't gotten to the good stuff yet when people are actually able to testify now. But let's see the poll so far. Verdict so far, 26% guilty, 11% not guilty, 23% don't know, and that's fine to not know. And then 39% shit. So, guys, tomorrow we will tomorrow we're going to start up, I think, let me see what the one for tomorrow looks like. Oh, yeah, we'll start at the same time. We'll start at 6 o'clock and we'll see how far we can go. Because a couple of these are kind of big. And then we'll go from there. So let me see. Yeah, so that will be it. We'll start again at the same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. and we'll go forward. Can they get the death penalty? No. Trenton saying it's like the defense is trying to set up the classic not enough investigating. They're also trying to set up he got what was coming to him, like that he fucked around and had to find out. So that's part of it as well. There's multiple things being done here. And we'll see. This Who We Are is going to watch some replays. Spanny was on today. Yeah, I know. I just I wanted to get it in and started going. And we'll get it in for the rest of the week. So, guys, until next time, actually, till tomorrow night, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Good night, everybody.